Hey everybody, so in theory this just started streaming and hopefully the technology is working and some of you guys are seeing my beautiful face, and the reason for that is that I just hit 50,000 subscribers, and if you're watching this that means you're part of that crew of people that help make this happen. And it's still, I guess I've kind of been on the top of a wave for a little while of just kind of growth, success, people watching my videos and everything, but it still just kind of blows my mind that many people care about what I have to say about Marvel movies and Purge movies and whatever else I talk about on the channel. It's just crazy to me how many of you are out there watching, and thank you so much for tuning in, for watching, for having great conversations, all the other amazing things that have happened through this channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as part of that, you kind of kick off for a month. It's going to have a lot of kind of celebrative things. Doing this quick little live stream. My wife is right over here running the chat board.
Hello.
That's good. She was waving for like 10 seconds before she said anything. I was like, I don't think she knows the camera's not on her. And so then she said hello. So it evened out a little bit there. But so yeah, this is the first little piece of this. I'm actually like 10 days away, 2 weeks away from my 2-year anniversary on YouTube. And I was really hoping that I was going to hit that 50,000 by the time I hit the 2-year anniversary. I was actually hoping to hit it by July 1st, and so it's just a couple days after that I did hit it. So I'm going to have a bunch of other things for the 2-year anniversary. So things are happening. I've got some fun ideas for some different things to do. I'm going to do another reading mean comments. I'm going to do some other types of things that I think will be a little bit fun to kind of share on the channel, and interesting little ideas to do. So I guess without further delay, we'll kind of go ahead and get started. Oh, wow. Looking over here, we already got 50 people in the room and tons of stuff.
I'm showing 88.
You're showing 88. Wow, yours is... I wonder why mine only says 52. Yours... I like your number more than my number.
89.
So as you kind of collect the first question, I did a post several hours ago informing you guys that I would be doing this live stream at this time. And if you guys threw some questions in there, one question someone asked me, I'm sorry I didn't write your name down. I read that you posted this question, and then I went to the movies to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp with my son, got home, had to throw him in bed. We ran up here and clicked that stream button. So I don't have...
Sorry, who threw him in bed?
You grabbed him, threw him in bed, grabbed a computer, ran upstairs. But so then I didn't get to write the exact question out, but the question essentially was the person asking, if I didn't review movies on YouTube for my job, what job would I want to have? Which I thought it's an interesting question on several different levels, because there's several assumptions in the question. First, the first assumption is that this is my job, which it's not. I'm hoping transitioning towards that. I deliver paint all day long. Like, that's my day job, is that I drive a truck around and pick up big, gigantic buckets of paint. That's my actual day job that, you know, provides my base income and insurance and everything for my family. I'm actually working on it. That's why I have shoulder muscles, not from actually working out or anything like that, but from doing this all day long. But I actually working on a video that's a day in the life video from this past Monday when I went to go to a press screening of Ant-Man and the Wasp and went to work and went to the gym. So in a couple days on a separate channel I'm working on, I've got a video of what my days actually kind of look like, so you get a picture of that. But so that's point number one of this isn't my job. This is something I'm working to make my full-time career, but it's not quite there. The other part, what would I want to do if I could have a dream job? And I think what we've kind of discovered over the last 4 years of introspection and career searching is that I don't want to have a job. And that's not that I don't want to work. It's not a laziness thing. I, by my nature, just create things, do things. I'm very driven, hard-working kind of person, but I'm not really a job person. And what I mean by that is that you disagree?
I'm sorry, ignore my face.
Yeah, she's making faces. It's like, I thought I was making like good insights. But I've thought a lot about what I want to do, and I've public speaking skills, dog training skills, video editing skills. Like, there's a bunch of different things I can do. I can write, but the idea of making a career or a job.
Whoa! Sorry. Whoa! I'm sorry, we're fine. He just almost brought it down.
Pull the cord, and then loop it on that one right there. Sorry about that. Our dog walked in, was pulling cords for lights that are attached to the ceiling so they could pull the lights out of the ceiling. Could be on. But so I wouldn't want, there's not like a job out there that like I'd work towards it and want that job. I like to be able to create on kind of my own terms. I like to have the freedom in what I'm doing, be able to change directions. And so there's not a job that I would want. And along those same lines is a kind of career that I would want. Part of the appeal of wanting to do this full time is that I can do the other things that I want to do with the freedom that I want. I have all sorts of ideas of wanting to have like a side thing where I kind of train people on YouTube and how was I successful, social media type things. I have all sorts of, like I do public speaking and would love to get into public speaking, and whether that's training on YouTube, even like motivational type speaking type things. I'd love to get into things like that. I enjoy helping people and inspiring people, and that's something I'm good at doing. And so, and then likewise, I have a history of service work and working on the Navajo Nation and leading trips for things like that I can't do that right now because of my day job delivering paint. I just couldn't take the work off to do that. If I was doing this full time, I could go and do extensive kind of work serving different types of places, leading trips. So that's what I want. I want the freedom to be able to explore and pursue many different things. All right, so I answered a question to give you plenty of time to come up with some amazing mind-blowing questions. What amazing, mind-blowing questions have you got for me?
Well, really quickly, didn't you rank Friday the 13th movies?
No, I've never ranked the Friday the 13th movies.
Well, that's a request. Would you rank them?
So to that one, you gotta, if you want to figure out what rankings I'm working on in the future, one of the best ways to kind of gauge that is to watch my Blu-ray haul videos. And if you watched my most recent Blu-ray haul video from Sunday, I bought 9 of the Friday the 13th movies in June because it's coming. That ranking is coming. And so in that video, I kind of said that, like, I bought this ranking's coming. So just so you know, it's happening. But yeah, there you go.
Congrats on your child on the way.
Thank you. Pregnant wife. Very pregnant. Texas heat. Not a good combination.
So true. Have you watched Oculus?
Nope. I don't have any Oculus experience, so I have nothing to, and I'm not trying to like undermine the question, or I just haven't seen it. I don't know anything about it. I don't have a story as to why I haven't seen it. It's just not one that's been on my radar.
Which franchise is better, First Blood or Karate Kid?
Which franchise is better as a franchise? First Blood, Karate Kid. So First Blood being Rambo or Karate Kid. I think if you kind of go, I guess there's 5 movies in the Karate Kid one because look it over. I think you pretty easily go with First Blood because there's a couple of really bad ones in the Karate Kid franchise. It kind of goes off the rails, and whereas, I mean, in a certain sense, Rambo First Blood Part 2 goes off the rails in like patriotism and things like that, and like we won the Vietnam War. It's ridiculous, but it's a ridiculous that at least is like the right genre. It works in and of itself for what it's trying to do. It accomplishes its purposes, whereas Karate Kid Part 3 and the next Karate Kid are just kind of schmaltzy, hokey versions of what they're trying to be.
What of the movie posters behind you is your favorite movie of those 4?
Of only these 4?
Oh, Star Wars, Wonder Woman, Jaws, or Finding Nemo.
Only the 4 behind me.
Only the 4 behind you.
Star Wars.
I'm shocked.
It was Star Wars, Jaws, and then these two are about equal, I guess. I don't different.
You like Wonder Woman and Finding Nemo the same?
I don't know how to compare the two. Like
that's
I don't
fair.
like where it's pretty easy for me to say Star Wars. That's an important movie in my life. Yeah, that's number 1. Jaws doesn't necessarily have the nostalgia of Star Wars, but it's just so iconic. Wife loves it. Amazing movie. So then it's way up there, and then it's Wonder Woman, Finding Nemo, 2 very different types of movies. I mean, like, if it's just me, which one am I more likely to just sit down, just me? Probably Wonder Woman, but I think Finding Nemo's the better made movie. And so how do you compare those two things? I'll just say, I don't know how to pick between the two.
That's fair. I thought that was a good question. Have you seen Uncle Drew?
No, I actually got invited to the press screening for it, but it was like the day after I went to the press screening for... go see last week. What was that one? Sicario 2. And so in the press screenings are all on the far opposite end of town, and so they're difficult to get to. And it kind of turns into, even if I don't have to wait in the line, even if I have a press pass, which I did have, it's just the whole night is kind of taken up, and it's sitting in traffic, and sometimes driving back late at night, they'll close the roads down because Austin is always under construction. And so it's such an endeavor that I didn't end up making it. So I haven't seen it. And I'd heard mixed things before it came out, and then I've heard pretty good things since it came out. So I don't know if I would like it or not, but I'd originally planned on going, and then there were certain details that didn't work out. The other detail that my dog is very sick and dying, like actually dying. I don't want to go into all the details of it, but my wife was out of town in Orlando last week. So I was home alone with me and the dogs, and so then I was at work all day, and then if nighttime leaving to go to a press screening, it meant this dog that's very sick was home more than I wanted for her to be alone, and I didn't want to do that 2 days in a row, so that's why I didn't see Uncle Drew. It's kind of the full story to it.
What's your favorite Tom Cruise stunt?
Favorite Tom Cruise stunt? I think it's tough to not say the Dubai Tower sequence.
Is it because you saw it in IMAX?
I mean, I only saw it in IMAX one time, and I've seen the movie.
But I mean...
I guess I saw it at fake IMAX that second time, but...
I just mean, for me, like, seeing that movie in IMAX, I was literally...
Right, yeah, it's the best sequence I've ever seen in a theater, was the Dubai sequence in IMAX is the best sequence in a movie that I've ever theatrically...
I don't think I've ever been so physically uncomfortable in a movie theater in my life.
Seeing that one on IMAX, and we saw it at the Bob Bullock IMAX in Austin, which is real IMAX, not... let's kind of convert a theater that's kind of big into IMAX. Like, this is enormous screen. And the seats are, like, at this crazy angle. There's no middle aisles. It's just this tall thing. And just a phenomenal sequence. But just in general, that sequence works if you watch it at home, too. It's just an incredibly well-crafted sequence. Amazing stunt that they just that's cinematic. Like, that's what when I think of stunt work, that's a cool stunt right there. That's interesting and different and unique, because there's lots of people like, the building's blowing up and he jumps off the building, and we see in a lot of different things, but movie star on the outside of the tallest building in the world, that's pretty cool.
Can you just address super fast that you might talk about some aspects of Ant-Man and the Wasp, but that we're not going to do anything spoilery or...
Yeah,
it just came out.
Yeah, I'm not going to do any spoilers for it. I'd actually prefer to not talk about it really at all. I don't, like, there might be some context where it could come out.
Context where it's like, as a sequel, where does it rank in comparison?
Yeah, so there might be very light, superficial discussion of Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I already put my spoiler-free review. I'm going to put out a spoiler review in a couple days, and then I've got all my other Marvel-type content I'm working on. So this live stream, I'm not looking to do something like that. But so that you can watch this safe, I'm not going to say anything about that movie.
There's a few questions. They're not completely spoilery, but we're just not going to touch them.
And I'll actually tell you, if you feel like you're reading spoilers for Ant-Man, just take them out. No, but that's an instruction. Take them out. Yeah, that's as the moderator, and I'm not trying to help you not see spoilers, but I don't want the chat section to be filled with things that I want people to know.
If I can stay on top of that, I will definitely remember.
Because there's some things in the movie that people could start dropping that I would be angry about. I had to delete stuff out of the comment section on my review. What do we got next?
Oh, we've got so many questions, and I'm so far behind. I'm sorry, I'm working on it. What are your favorite sports?
Favorite sports? I don't know. I'm not... So growing up, I played a lot of baseball, and even tried out for... I've been thinking of, like, is there context to, like, tell this particular story? But so I even tried out for... I got pretty good in middle school, and then tried out for high school and got cut at the first, cut. The people like, what are you doing trying out for baseball? That's when I got cut. And it's not that I was bad. Like, I've always been good at making contact. Like, I don't strike out. I can catch the ball, but I can't throw at all. Like, I am horrible at throwing. And as an adult, like, I injured myself very easily throwing with any strength. And I learned that playing dodgeball with teenagers many times. But so one of the guys on this team that I got cut from it the first cut. To give you the context, he went on to play professional baseball for the last 18 years. His name's Kelly Johnson. He's played for a ton of different teams. I mean, you can look him up on Wikipedia. He went to the same high school as me. Like, I went to middle school with him. That's my dog over there shaking, if you can hear that. So if you're a big baseball fan or around my age, you probably might know who Kelly Johnson is. Back in the 90s, I knew that guy, and he cheated off me on a test once, and we talked about Seinfeld the Soup Nazi once. So I played a lot of baseball, and when we got married, we played softball for a season, and I had the best on base percentage. I had a couple of like these like jump up in the air, throw my hand up, and catch the ball moments. So I haven't really played anything in quite a while. Never really played football. I was super skinny in high school. Played basketball, but that was more like for fun. I wasn't good at it at the time. I can't shoot. And then now having worked with teenagers a lot, I played a lot of basketball with teenagers, and so that was kind of fun because being 6'1" and I can do layups, and so I'd get all the rebounds and just make layups on high schoolers. That was fun.
Broke your toe?
I broke my foot.
Oh, your foot.
I broke my foot playing. That's the one that was bad, where I got put on bed rest for 2 weeks playing basketball with high schoolers.
Remember when I was excited about that at the beginning, like an idiot?
Yeah, that's not the way that works.
Not that I wanted you to get hurt, but...
Yeah, I know what you meant. Just punishment.
No.
But so then I kind of enjoy a little bit of UFC when I can kind of watch it.
Can you just say that I'm here? Some people don't seem to know who the floating voice is.
That's my wife right there. She doesn't do on-screen appearances, and just for that matter, I'm just running this into my laptop. This is a webcam right here. We don't have like a fancy setup where I could be like switching between cameras, even if she did want to be on screen. So, which she does not want to be on screen. So she's running the chat boards, all that fun stuff.
What are you doing? You ready for another question?
Yeah.
Do you have an all-time favorite horror movie?
Scream. I reviewed all. Someone asked me about a year ago what my favorite horror movie was over on my Patreon page.
That's like maybe the only fastest answer to a favorite question I think you have.
Yeah, because it's a genre that I'm not. It's not like one of my genres. I don't dislike horror movies. I enjoy a good number. I can certainly be in the mood to put something on. But it's not one that I'm like super invested in, like the way I'm associated with comic book genre, Star Wars movies, things like that. And then Cody Leach asked me the question about a year ago, what's my favorite horror movie or scary movie? And then I went, it's the Scream franchise, and in particular the first movie. So that's why I have a very quick answer to it. That's like that's my definite answer to that one. And that's horror movies. I think a lot of times, a lot of people kind of tie it to nostalgia of growing up, like whether you were like introduced to a parent to John Carpenter movies, or if you were in the 80s and so you're into those slasher movies, or in my case, the Kevin Williamson Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer era, the Faculty era movies, and that's my era. And so then it's a pretty easy, quick answer for me.
Makes sense. I believe the question is there a sequel that you liked better than the original?
Empire Strikes Back. Aliens, potentially Terminator 2, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War. So there's a lot of sequels, and I mean those are the ones that immediately come to mind. Aliens is probably the definitive one for me, of one that I like where the original is really good, and I think that the sequel is better. That's probably the very definitive one for me.
Do you think Ant-Man and the Wasp is a better sequel than The Winter Soldier?
A better sequel? No. Now it's I don't want to go into it. It's very much in line with the first movie in my mind. If you like the first one, you'll probably like this one. Watching it a second time, my big takeaway was this is probably the most lighthearted of the Marvel movies. The one that maybe even the most appropriate to bring my 6-year-old to. Just very like a fun type of movie. And so it's categorically, it feels very different from what they were trying to do with Winter Soldier, which tried to kind of explore some ideas, had world building, had humor, had great action, big consequences for the universe. That's not what Ant-Man and the Wasp is. Ant-Man and the Wasp is just like a fun little breezy adventure.
Sounds nice.
You will like it. And it's a little bit more... someone asked me so they said there was going to be a romantic comedy. I'm talking to you.
I'm listening.
Someone said it was going to be a romantic comedy. They asked me, is it a romantic comedy? And so first view, I was like, no, it's not really a romantic comedy, but it's got a real sweetness to it. And there's a lot of kind of like relationships between guys and girls that you can see where there's like a nice warm-hearted relationship between a lot of the characters, whether that's sons to daughters, husbands to wives, or ant-men to wasps.
Just so that it's addressed, I'm seeing lots of requests for ranking Narnia, James Bond, David Fincher movies, a bunch of requests that we've seen before, so, and Jaws.
Yeah. So to quickly address kind of the ranking questions, I can't keep answering them. Jaws is coming when Meg comes out. Narnia is one that we've kind of approved to, like, we're going to watch with our kids. It's coming soon. I just don't have a time frame on it. David Fincher's not going to be for a while, but I'm working on Tarantino. I've watched through 5 Tarantino movies in the last week and a half, working towards that one. When I'm done with Tarantino and that one happens, then I'll probably start working on David Fincher. James Bond probably won't happen until the next Bond movie comes out, because it's 25 movies or so. I have to rewatch all of them. It's not a franchise it's a new franchise that they're fresh on my mind, that I've watched them all frequently. Some of the James Bond movies I haven't watched in 20 years. Some of them I've watched 10 times in the last 2 years. And so I have to rewatch all of them. So that's a lot of homework to do. What was the other big ones in there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I think I covered all the big ones, but when I do a ranking video for whether it's a director or a franchise, I watch the movies. Like, I catch up on them. It has to have been, for me, within about the last year of watching them, thinking, I'm going to review this. I'm going to be talking about these, so I need to rewatch them, or else I'll need to rewatch those movies again. And sometimes people ask me, like, hey, why do you sometimes re-rank the Marvel ones? Well, the reason I do lots of those ones is because I've watched all of them a lot of times, and I can keep talking about them and having new insights, and I can talk about them in different ways. Whereas, like, the James Bond movies, that's a lot of homework I have to do. If you just stop and think about, to do the James Bond movies, 25 movies times 2 hours per movie, that's 50 hours. 50 hours, a full work week of watching movies just to be able to do that one video. And it's not like with the James Bond one, I get a bunch of different videos out of it. And it's not going to be as big of a hit as my Pixar or my Marvel rankings. And that's why it's really tough to find the time to actually watch 25 movies to do one video. And so if you put it in that perspective, that's why sometimes it takes me a little while to kind of get some of these videos done, or why with the franchise I have watched all of them, I might do a couple extra videos with it. That's the context of what it takes to actually do this. But I do take notes. I watch the movies that I rank. Like all the Purge movies, I did watch them within the last 2 weeks, even though I've watched all of them within the last 2 years, just independent of this.
Sorry, I'm getting involved in conversations.
That's good. I want you guys to talk movies.
What's your favorite movie so far of 2018?
From the blockbuster sense, Infinity War. From in general, or removed from big spectacle, wow, I love that experience of that movie, would be A Quiet Place. That's a really movies like that tend to make it into my top 10 because they're interesting, they're unique, they're different, and you go, that's such a clever idea for a movie, and you pulled it off. And then add to that, when you got John Krasinski and Emily Blunt that we're always rooting for, because she's got man and woman crushes on them, and for the Office connections and the Edge of Tomorrow connections, it's one that just was very much rooting for it, and they pulled it off. And so I'm big thumbs up for A Quiet Place.
Super chat?
We got a super chat.
Marley Mar Cinemas.
Thank you, Marley Mar Cinemas.
Spoiler-free thoughts on Severus Snape.
Spoiler-free thoughts on Severus Snape. Did you want to tune in first? So you've read the books.
Okay.
You have watched all the movies too. And you've listened to all the audiobooks.
Multiple times.
Yes. Many times. Many times. What are your quick thoughts on Severus Snape?
I don't know how to do a spoiler-free one. I feel like there's a bunch of people that love him. I don't know that I'm in that camp.
How do you not love Alan Rickman?
No. You didn't say Alan Rickman. You said Severus Snape.
Yeah, but any way I can leverage things against you, I'm going to.
Oh, thank you so much. It's very supportive as a husband.
I do my best.
I don't feel like I feel like he does some interesting things that I don't expect. I'm really bad at not doing spoilers. So I'm trying really hard not to step in something. I don't like him as much as other people do. That's not to say he wasn't a well-written character. I appreciated that J.K. Rowling told Alan Rickman the end of the story before anyone else knew, so that he knew in the movies. I thought that was a really cool thing.
So I'm not a Harry Potter person, and I don't dislike Harry Potter. I'm not like, you guys like that crap. I'm not that at all. It's just we all have our thing that we get really into, and that's not the one that just super connected with. Same with Lord of the Rings. I'm not a big Lord of the Rings person either. So I as a Alan Rickman fan, just of course was an interesting character with like a weird, creepy, charismatic vibe to him. I've heard from people that that's one of the problems from the books to the movies is that Alan Rickman is too charismatic to be Severus Snape. Would that be accurate?
I don't know if I would agree with that. I don't know. I don't feel like he's a charismatic character, even as Alan Rickman. I don't think his portrayal is like, wow, he's very lively.
Yeah, but that's the thing about like an actor like Alan Rickman is they can take someone that's not lively and they still have like a charm to them, like something you're like.
He could have a snark, but I felt like that was portrayed in the book. So.
All right. So I'd heard someone say that, in which case it's probably a Worthen or someone like that. They have strong opinions.
Well, they're huge Snape fans. Huge.
So anyway, but so I mean I dug it for that reasons. I don't know that I felt that the things we're not going to spoil were fully earned. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on this question, but so there's some different thoughts on Mr. Snape.
It's hard to answer without doing spoilers.
Right.
I don't want to give out spoilers, but it's hard to do without doing that. Do you have a favorite Marvel movie?
Favorite Marvel movie would have to be. I mean, I don't. Are you looking for something different than my ranking videos? I don't have like a new special insight for you. I was trying to come up with a movie that would be sarcastic. It's Captain America 1990. My Marvel ranking videos kind of give you kind of my thoughts on it. One of these days, I'm going to do a video where I rank all 50 of X-Men universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, offshoot ones, Blade, throw them all together and come up with a definitive answer to it. I don't really have a definitive answer, and I rank them differently based off the context under which I'm ranking them. And so I don't know, there's some thoughts. I don't have an easy answer for you. Like my last MCU ranking video was Infinity War. It's been Guardians before. It's been the Avengers. It's been Iron Man. Spider-Man 1 and 2 are pretty great. So Logan's pretty great. So there's a bunch of different ones that kind of compete in that top space for different reasons.
Super chat from Shane Jewell.
Thank you, Shane Jewell.
Would you rank the Game of Thrones seasons?
So I get a lot of requests from people to rank the Game of Thrones seasons or talk about Game of Thrones on my channel. The problem is I'm not caught up. I've watched about 2 seasons. You've watched about 1 season, and it's when you got little kids, it's so hard that it's a very difficult show to watch. It's a difficult show to watch, period. It's on the edge of what I would watch anyway, just of content and what sort of things I generally entertain myself with. And so I've seen seasons 1 and 2, and based off seasons 1 and 2, I like season 1 quite a bit more than season 2. But then again, I watched season 1 in normal binge fashion, and season 2 spread over the course of about 3 years. So that's probably not the best way to watch a show with that level of complexity of details. But even that first episode of season 2 was like, I don't know that this show's for me while I got little kids and they're killing babies a bit much in my phase of life. So I that's my problem. I'm kind of talking Game of Thrones. It's one that's very difficult for me to catch up on.
Would you recommend Pacific Rim Uprising for fans of the first one?
Would I recommend? It's worth a Redbox rental to risk it. If you're talking about $1.50 to watch the movie at home, it's worth the risk. In my mind, I've never been someone that puts the original Pacific Rim up on a pedestal. Like some people are like, this movie's amazing, and I was always like, it's schlocky fun from an auteur director, so that's cool. I mean, I get that Guillermo del Toro is an interesting director that adds a little something on top of it, but I get all that. But people talk about Pacific Rim as if it's art, like great art cinema, when it's a movie about big robots fighting monsters. And so for me, when the appeal of the original Pacific Rim is big robots fighting monsters, the second movie takes a little bit while to get to big robots fighting monsters, but before it does that, it has big robots fighting big robots. So it's not as good. It's dopier. Some of the leads and characters aren't quite as good, but it delivers on big, stupid mayhem. So I plan on getting a Redbox and showing it to my son. Like, hey, watch these robots beat up monsters.
Can you scroll down on your screen and make sure we didn't miss any super chats?
I actually did that only a couple minutes ago. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Okay. Just checking.
So I dug it. Anyway, if you guys didn't notice that, if you definitely want me to answer your question, you can put a super chat in, and we will definitely acknowledge it on screen and answer your questions. Because we got, I'm checking. I'm going back because we did one of these about a month ago, and we're having technical problems. We've been in touch with YouTube tech support, and they're like, "Yeah, there's a problem with your account." I was like, "Okay, are you going to fix it?" No, we don't know how to fix it. Like, okay. So I can't actually respond to comments in the chat section on here. So she can't use so we had to find ways to work around all of this. So we missed some super chats because of that about a month ago. So we're trying not to do that anymore. But anyway, so just ask your questions. We're going to answer as many as we can, go for as long as we can. And what do you got for me?
You ranked the Harry Potter movies, correct?
Yeah, I've ranked the Harry Potter movies a couple times. Yeah.
Tyler Tompkins. Do you watch Peppa Pig?
Oh dear, no.
I wasn't expecting that reaction.
Oh no. Yes, I watch a lot of Peppa Pig because I have a 4-year-old daughter.
Oh man.
So because of that, yes.
Super chat.
Yeah, what do we got?
Mason Gamble. What are your favorite sequel movies and why?
Favorite sequel movies? So we kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning, which sequels are better. And there's another super chat if you didn't see it. Okay. Aliens is absolutely, possibly my favorite sequel of all time. I think it's significantly better than the original. It's just one of my favorite movies of all time. And the original's great too. But just for me, a big step up in action, the scale of things, the nature of things with the Marines, and then just making Ripley both a very strong feminine character and just a very strong action character, and not sacrificing on either end and not feeling cheating on either one. Terminator 2, amazing sequel that James Cameron did this both with Aliens too, of doing a totally different movie with the sequel that manages to top it. Empire Strikes Back, of course, being one of the classic ones. What are some other ones that would be quick ones that would come to mind?
Did you mention Indiana Jones?
Yeah, Last Crusade, another one that you go, this one could be as good by adding the dad into the mix. And that seems to be a common theme in these, is sequels that find a way to take all the things great about the original one and keep those, but just do something totally different. Having Indiana Jones with James Bond with him as his dad, that's such a great twist and turn on the character. Who's the one person that that Indiana Jones is embarrassed in front of and can put him in his place? James Bond, and it's his dad. And the fact that they're only 12 years apart in age, so which is funny that it was dad's 12 years old guy, but they managed to make him actually look significantly older without actually cheating or anything. Just so those are the ones that come to mind. Much like my favorites list, when I think about things like this, I jump back to the 80s and the 90s quite a bit.
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk.
Yes, Incredible Hulk. Wow, that's cool that you can type on a keyboard.
Mark Ruffalo. Can you give us your thoughts on Fant Four Stick?
So my thoughts on Fant Four Stick, the one from 3 years ago, is that it was one of the most interesting bad movies of all time, and a bad movie that seems like it had a lot of potential. Because you watch the movie, and from my perspective, it's like 45, 50 minutes, and I was like, I'm on board. This isn't a terrible movie. Like, I'm confused. Maybe a bit dull, maybe not as fun as a Fantastic Four movie should be, but it's not a train wreck. Great cast, some interesting themes and ideas put out there, and then they go into the machine, they come out of it, and it's like the movie goes off the rails. Just like, like you're starting to transition to like, oh, they're getting powers, and then suddenly we're in the third act of the movie out of nowhere 2 minutes later, and a main villain shows up, and we have a showdown, and then the credits rolls. Like, what just happened? It feels like 30 minutes of this movie disappeared. Like, how? Where did it go? And it's a very fascinating movie, and I think that for that reason, I find it more watchable than any of the other Fantastic Four movies, because before it goes off the rails, I don't think it's so bad. And then when it does goes off the rails, it's, kind of like watching The Room. It's a train wreck, but it's an amazing train wreck to watch. So that's kind of my quick take on it. And it's just the backstory of Josh Trank going insane while making the movie. And then because he went insane, he got fired off of Star Wars. So like all the details about, and then right before the movie came out, he tweeted like, there was a movie a year ago I was so proud of. No one's ever going to get to see that movie. The studio system sucks. And then 2 hours later, they had to delete the tweet. The backstory of the movie is amazing to me. And so I have a certain fondness for that movie because of the insanity surrounding it, the great cast, and the lost potential. So those are my quick thoughts. I did a video early on my channel, so almost 2 years ago on it. It's not really a review, but it's like, what went wrong? How the amazing story of this bizarre train wreck from like 2 years ago. So just search, I don't know why this is my typing gesture, but search. This is actually what I do almost anytime I do typing, and like I do weird hand gestures. But just search my name, Fantastic Four, and there should be like 3 videos that pop up, and one of them is from 2 years ago, and it's on the behind the scenes stuff.
Someone has suggested a sequel that was better than the original. It's The Wrath of Khan, which I feel like you would approve.
Oh yeah. But I mean, not even like it. That one's like, I forget Wrath of Khan when I think sequels that are better than the original, because the gap in quality between the two is just so vast, and it's like a hard. While in continuity, not really changing anything, it's a hard reboot of the universe in certain senses, because that's a terrible use of that phrase. It's a soft reboot. It's a hard, soft reboot of the Star Trek universe, because they even changed the uniforms. They changed the nature of the Federation to give it a much more naval fashion to it, and then do these space battles that are like submarine warfare in space. Totally shift in what they did with it, but of course that would be one. Yes.
Suggestions for you to watch Cloak and Dagger.
Like the 1982 movie with the kid from E.T.?
No. What? No, the Marvel TV show.
Oh, there's so many of these Marvel TV shows. That's the problem, is that I can't keep up with all of them, and there's so many people that want me to catch up on S.H.I.E.L.D. and all sorts of different things. So
that was a question. Are you ever going to catch up on S.H.I.E.L.D.?
It's all a matter of time. So people are like, you should rank the seasons. Like, I haven't caught up. You need to catch up so you can rank the seasons. Like, okay, what you're proposing that I watch 100 hours of television so I can do one video. That's a lot of work. And the first 12 episodes did not hook us at all. And you guys keep telling me, episode 17, there's this big change and everything's so much. Maybe so. Maybe you're right, and that's all I need to do. But there's so much television, there's so many movies, and there's just so much stuff to make happen for the channel.
Has your wife ever majorly disagreed with one of your videos?
That would be a you question.
Well, I can't think of anything. Why wouldn't that be a you question?
Well, you would know what you disagree with me on, and you wouldn't. You haven't necessarily told me.
Think of...
First off, she doesn't watch most of my videos.
This is
true. One of the funniest things on my channel, absolute funniest thing in my mind, is so whenever I post movie reviews, I always get some comments from people like, great, cool new intro with the title swinging in and the poster that explodes. I've been using that intro for a year and a half. Like, I started using that in January 2017 before almost any of you that are watching this right now are subscribed. Like, it's very old on my channel, but I don't use it on my ranking videos because I never figured out the formula for how to have the posters. I never cracked the code or was able to have the time to program it right. And so I only use it for movie reviews. In which case, people that my rankings are far more popular than my reviews. So, in which case, people haven't seen it. And so then when they start to watch some of my reviews as they come out, then they're like, hey, cool new intro, even though it's a very old intro. And so I made this joke to her like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And she goes, oh yeah, your intro, you know, where it's like green and purple, 80s soundtrack, the words start moving towards the screen. I was like, what are you talking about, Jennifer? I stopped using that a year and a half ago. That's what we talked about that 2 weeks ago.
No, you totally set me up. You had that face, and I knew you were up to something. I knew there was a trap, and I didn't know what it was. And you were like, people are saying how much they like my new intro. And I'm like, oh. And then you showed it to me and stared at me weird. And
and you said you hadn't seen it.
No, I went, and like totally non-committally, didn't say anything. And then you were like, that's not new. And I was like, I knew it was a trick. But yeah, I mean, we talk about this.
Then you said that my intro was the 80s thing that I haven't used in a year and a half.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't remember.
So what was what question am I answering?
I don't even know. If I disagreed with any of your...
Oh yeah, so anyway, so she tells me this and I'm like, what has she watched on my channel? So I don't even know what she's disagreed with, and she wouldn't know what she would disagree with either because she hasn't watched a lot of them. So what's a movie that we've disagreed on in the last year and a half or so?
I mean, the movies I can think of with like strongest reactions are like...
She doesn't like Captain America, Winter Soldier, or Civil War. There you go.
That scary one that was supposed to be scary...
It?
No, I did not go see that. The one I walked out of freaking out. What was that one?
Oh, It Comes at Night.
But I don't think we specifically... Like, when I think of disagreement or disagreement, I think of like a negative reaction to a film.
Yeah, we're not terribly far off in our tastes, or at least in what we can tolerate around each other. In which case, there's not like things we're like arguing over some movie. Captain America: Civil War would be the one where it was like, really? You think that's one of the worst Marvel movies?
I don't think I said it's one of the worst. I just didn't enjoy it as much as everyone else did.
But there's not big things that we strongly disagree on, and there's a bunch of things she just won't go see, and I know I'm going to get in trouble if I make her watch it. I knew that It Comes at Night was going to be rough. Like we talked about it, like this is going to get weird. And
we didn't know it was going to go the direction it went, though.
And then she decided not to go see A Quiet Place with me. And then I was like, you can't watch this until after baby's born and healthy. And then maybe you can watch it and you'll like it. But if you watch this while pregnant, you'd hate me.
Yeah, you're a good barometer. You know what I can handle and what I can't.
Doesn't stop me from showing her things. I just want to pick when I want to mess with her.
Well, life changed pretty drastically after Liam. Like, remember we were in Looper and I was having like a
she saw
breakdown.
That was a weird one.
But I didn't anticipate it. That was when my taste in movies changed, and so you've adapted.
Like, we used to love movies about like just kids and babies getting slaughtered. She in particular was like, if babies die, it's my favorite. And then we had kids.
Not even true.
Oh.
Not even true.
I might have made that up.
Lies.
What do we got next? As we've been rambling on. Let's try it. If we can have some, I can just
get to the next question.
Some that I can knock out real quick.
Have you ever dressed up as a superhero? If so, which one?
And there's another super chat.
Okay.
From Incredible. Have I ever dressed up as a superhero?
And if so,
in my Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 review, I put on a shirt and then did the whole sideburns and everything. Went full cosplay for Star-Lord. Have I ever dressed up as a super... I've been trying to make a Batman costume for years. But I don't want to get like some crappy thing from Halloween Express or something like that. I want to
yet you never think about it until like the day before.
That is not true. I have repeatedly said 2 months in advance, like, hey, I'm trying to find that is not true. And now my weight's to where I want it to be for this Batman costume, and so all these thoughts are like wanting to build like a proper one that looks like the Batman Arkham games. But I never had like a good costume or anything like that growing up or back in the day, so nothing that would be legit. What do we got?
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk.
Oh wow, the Incredible Hulk's back.
Can you give us your thoughts on the Venom movie?
I haven't seen it.
I would assume.
So I don't know yet. I think I'm gonna have to see this one to really wrap my mind around it, because they haven't given a straight answer as to whether it is or is not associated with the MCU, and they've said stuff like, yeah, it's like a spiritual cousin. So is it like Marvel Netflix, or is it like the Sam Raimi movies? What does that mean? And so that's frustrating to not know what they're doing, and I don't particularly enjoy it when they play coy with just things like that. And then just the nature of the trailers I've seen thus far, I've been like, I just don't know. I get nervous whenever there's voice in the head type things. And then I saw Upgrade, which has a guy that looks like Tom Hardy with voices in his head doing violent things. And so it sounds like we've already gotten the Venom movie. It's called Upgrade. Go check it out, everybody. It's a great movie. That's my transition. So I'm more curious than excited, because I just don't know what to expect. So curious, not necessarily excited.
Did you like 13 Reasons Why?
I haven't watched it somewhat on... So, first off, I'm not interested at all. I have no interest in watching a TV show about teenage suicide. Like, I've been an on-site at a high school counselor for high schoolers the day after a student killed themselves. And, I mean, it was it messed me up. Like, it was not, like, it seriously messed me up. And then spent weeks trying to counsel teenagers after this kind of happened. And then 3-4 months after that, and I didn't know that first student I just mentioned that killed himself. And then a few months after that, another teenager, same age, 16, a sophomore, also killed himself. And it really messed me up. And once again, I had to be I was at the parent's house the day after it happened, counseling students, helped with the funeral. And so the idea of watching for entertainment a show about high school suicide is it's unappealing on a level that I don't know that you can just naturally understand. It's like, oh, that's not interesting. No. I mean, like, I hear that and I go, I don't understand why anyone would want to watch that. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is I haven't seen the show, so I can't fully speak to the legitimacy of this, but like, I've read articles on how they got advice from suicide prevention people, and they said, do not show this, do not do this, this is what will trigger people, this is what's unhealthy to show people, and they ignored all that, and they told the story that they wanted to tell based on the article. I'm not a suicide expert, and I have not seen the show, but I've read articles from people that are suicide experts that have seen the show, and this is what they said, that they showed things that they say is very unwise. And I have big moral issues with that. And then kind of the third one in the mix of there's an inherent nature to the story that not for people that are mentally healthy, but for people that are mentally unhealthy, there's an interpretation of the show that would seem to be a very dangerous suicide glorification type fantasy, which is to say, after you get the final say in suicide, and then here's the 13 reasons why. That's a fantasy for people that are mentally not in the best place, can have fantasy like that. Like, it's not going to convert. Like, if you're mentally if you're not suicidal, the show's not going to convert you. It's probably a great polemic on the evils of bullying and how each of us like, for most people, that's what the show is. But for 1% of the people, for 2-3% of the people, there's a side to it that seemed extraordinarily irresponsible to me. So there's my thoughts on a show that I haven't seen. Was that a good answer?
Yes, I like the word polemic.
Yeah. In the content, the place where I got the word polemic from is there's a Batman fan film that's anti. I don't even remember what it's called, but it's like Batman gets kidnapped, and it's like anti the war on drugs, because Batman's like getting happy about like sending street thugs to prison for doing for selling drugs, and so one goes to prison and horrible things happen to him in prison. So after he gets out, he captures Batman and basically tortures him for not caring about the poor. And it's like an anti-poverty, anti-war and crime polemic. And that's what it is. That's where I learned the word polemic. If you want a very random story and want to see the worst Batman fan film of all time, look this one up. I can't even say why I'm laughing because it's such a wildly inappropriate response to what's in it. But it's the worst Batman fan film. Like, it rhymes with grape. I'll just say that. It ties heavily into this fan film, which is not funny at all, but it's such an absurd, like, how misguided thing that they went, that was intended as a polemic, that my body doesn't know how to respond other than to laugh at the absurdity of it. But anyway, it's a little side note.
Would you rank Friends?
No, I'd have to rewatch the whole series, which I don't want to do. It's one of those shows that I end up watching all the time because Friends is vanilla ice cream. Everyone likes vanilla ice cream. It's the thing that, you know, if you're somewhere like, hey, I want some ice cream? Oh, sure, I'll have some ice cream. But it's like the most bland thing that everybody likes that there is. It's bland, enjoyable stuff. That, in my mind, like, it's not the greatest if you want. It's not the most of anything. It's just everybody likes vanilla ice cream. Everybody likes Friends. There it is. And so it's not one that I would want to sit down and watch 10 seasons of Friends just to rank it. Whereas opposed to, I watch seasons 1 through 4 of The Office 2 or 3 times a year. And so all I had to do is rewatch the last few seasons one more time. And it felt like something we needed to do since we hadn't done that since they aired. But
were you disappointed in Ready Player One?
Yeah. Because the book's great. And the movie, I was actually talking to my buddy that I go to the gym with and I also go to the movies with, about it. He hadn't read the book before seeing the movie and then rewatched it at home, and since seeing the movie has read the book. So rewatching it at home, he was like, ooh, this is like a dumb version of the movie or of the book. And it's not that some of these sequences are bad. There's some cool, exciting sequences that are like changed versions of what's in the book, but it's dumber. Like drive backwards instead of forwards is a really dumb version of the sorts of things that are in the book. So, while I dug it, I liked it. There's a lot of things about it that were cool and neat to see on screen with all the, you know, obviously the different things coming together. It's hard to not be disappointed by how much they had to simplify and condense the book and convert things.
Have you seen Happy Death Day?
Yeah, we saw it at home, I don't know, 2-3 months back. We dug it. It was, I think you even said you would have seen that one in the theater, right? If it had worked out right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she doesn't do horror movies, but there's just enough about the trailer, and then our young college friends that have influence over her convinced her, like, oh yeah, go see this one. So we almost.
She was supposed to come into town. And
okay, so it was that's what it was. There was even a whole story. She was going to go see it. It just didn't work out. So we didn't see it till it was on Redbox, and then we watched it. I was like, yeah, this is cool, and that's what I mean. I kind of love Blumhouse, not because there's any movies that they've made that I think are phenomenal, but because I love their business model. I love what he's doing, which is making low-budget, high-concept movies that don't need to be big, massive. They don't need to be big hits. They just need to be able to do okay, and you can make a movie for a niche audience that's kind of interesting. So like Groundhog's Day, except a slasher movie that's like a comedy for teenagers. That's interesting to me. I dig the idea for that. Or like the Purge movies. Not great movies, but very enjoyable at times. I love that they exist, that they can do a franchise like that. And the budget for all 4 Purge movies is only like $40 million. And they made a ton of money. So I love Blumhouse and what they're doing. So anyway, my little Happy Death Day sidetrack there.
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk.
Thanks, buddy.
If Logan was in the MCU, where would it rank?
Oh, that's tough to say. Because at that point in time, you start ranking things based off of you're ranking apples and oranges, which is to say they're both fruits, both have seeds in the middle, both things I enjoy eating, but they're also the way you evaluate the two things is different. They have a lot of similarities, but they are all quite different. So when you evaluate Infinity War, which is part of the appeal is it's so big and massive, and we're bringing all these characters together in massive sequences, the jokes and everything. Or you're talking about Iron Man, which is just so fresh and funny. Or you're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, space opera with all these jokes. And then you start talking about Logan, which is a movie about death. Like, how do you compare which one is better? And so I don't know. I mean, it would be up there in the top 5 or something like that. But I'd have to spend a lot of time thinking about it to try and decide, because, and that's somewhat why I don't. I've said this before. I don't really like picking favorites, because there's so much variety and different things out there that comparing things that aren't the same and picking a favorite between, do you like this action movie or this comedy more? Well, they're too different to decide. It's tough for me to do, but I can rank a franchise because it's the same thing. They're inside of a same shared box, and inside of that box there's a set of expectations, and inside of that box I can decide which one goes on top of which one. And as soon as you take that box and then combine it with other boxes, then I start going, there's too many different things to consider, that's not really my strong point doing that. So I don't know. I really don't know right off the top of my head, other than say it would be very high. But it's comparing superhero deep thematic drama with great entertainment. They're different things.
Sorry. What was the most recent movie that made you cry?
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or something like that. What? You're laughing at me? I said, no matter what I said, you're going to laugh at me.
That's probably true.
That's messed up. I was probably Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but I don't know, something like that kind of has these big kind of like.
You're just not a crier, so whatever makes you cry always.
It's always funny. I don't.
I know that sounds terrible, but
yeah, I don't.
I never know what's gonna.
Like the idea that I'm, sitting down watching movies crying all the time.
That doesn't happen.
And I mean, even to say, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it means I was very tired and emotional. I think I went to go see it with my mom, and it's a movie dealing with fathers, sons, legacies, people dying. It's all sorts of emotions, and you're tired enough. Maybe I'll start just a little bit, but I just don't. I am not a crier at all. Like, people I know dying, family members dying, very, very limited crying or context of it. I'm just not like that.
Super chat from Rich Reviews.
Hey, Rich.
Went to see Jaws at the Alamo. Maybe it's me getting older. I actually felt sorry for the shark at the end.
Yeah, it's just a shark out in the ocean. It's not doing anything wrong. It's supposed to eat things. So, but yeah, that's what I was watching. So I was going through the book Meg, which when Meg comes out, I'm going to rank the Jaws movie, as I mentioned earlier. And it's that similar sort of like they start hunting it. And I was like, why are they hunting this creature that they were, things that caused it to be kind of free and out in the open? It's their fault. Why are they chasing it down? And that poor creature, I don't want it to die. It's an amazing specimen. Just don't tell the people not to go swimming where he's at.
Ever.
Yeah.
Super chat from Goof McBall.
Thank you, Mr.
Goof McBall.
Goof McBall.
What's your favorite third act in the MCU?
Favorite third act in the MCU? I think I have to go with the original Avengers. It's just set up in such a way to just give a satisfactory moment to everybody. Enough simplicity to it, whereas Infinity War and just different parts and elements come in and all these where it's just simple. There's an army, take them out, and then there's a Loki, and we smash on ground, puny god, have the most selfish character of our Avengers, decides to do something sacrificial. It's just pretty classic, crowd-pleasing, exciting. I mean, just... if you were there when the first one came out, it's only been 6 years, but there's still a sense in which you start to forget how special it was when that one came out. And even, a lot of these movies appeal to, teenagers. So if you're 18 right now, you're only 12 when the first one came out. If you were 14 right now, then you're only 8 when the Avengers came out. And so you don't realize like how unique and special of an experience it was to see that many characters on New York City battling a big army. It's just such a special event in a movie, and it every time I watch it, it satisfies. It works.
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk.
Mr. Hulk, thank you.
Have you seen Stranger Things? If not, I recommend.
Yeah, we've watched both seasons of Stranger Things. Yeah, I mean, I really liked the first season. The second one I was frustrated with the second season because they would a lot of times that sequels do, and they're trying to like raise the stakes, which is they broke the group up. And so then you got the little girl over here, and then these different people over here with Steve, the babysitter, and they also gave the kids all PTSD. And so there was a certain fun innocence to the first season and all these characters coming together and having little kid adventures that the second season, it's the same people, but not together. So that group dynamic's gone, and they're sad and they're broken and wandering around researching their background and things. So for me, the second season lost some of the charm of the show for me. Well, I had great moments and some, it's not like the acting dropped or anything like that, but just the dynamic of the show that made it work for me was broken.
How do you do amazing videos?
How do I do amazing videos?
Yes, and related to that, someone else asked if you need a fancy camera to do YouTube videos.
Do you need a fancy... No, this is a webcam right here. Like, this is a $60 Logitech 920. Logitech 920. It's a good webcam is all it is. It's not even like an amazing webcam. This is just a good enough webcam. And that's what I shoot 98% of my videos on, is this webcam right here. And $60. That's not a joke. Like, and if you get it on sale, it's $50. My mic is just this is about a $120 mic. It's called a Blue Yeti. All this is in my description of almost all my videos, or any of my recent videos. You can look in there. I could links to all the equipment that I use. So, and this is a pretty good little USB mic. And then I've got some lights right here. And so this is about $100 worth of lights. And then we hung them from the ceiling. All this combined though is $300. My entire setup is $300. So you don't need big expensive stuff. Now some of that's I experimented a while. Like what color shirt I wear really matters and changes the look of things. When we spent time thinking of what could we do for backdrops and lights, and I've done some stage design stuff, so I like these Edison bulbs. So little things like putting bright bulbs behind me gives me I'm backlit, so it gives some depth to some things that might not necessarily be there if not for the fact that these lights were here. So there's a lot of thought put into different things beyond it, but it's a $60 camera. So how do you start making great videos? You just start making videos and you constantly learn. And you constantly watch other people and pay attention to what they're doing and what little tricks they're doing and why does something look slick? Why does one video, like watch two videos and why does this one feel slow and why does this one feel fast? Like watch people that you find entertaining, which ones you don't find entertaining, and like why is it that one of these it captures my attention, the other one doesn't, and just learn and grow and evaluate and adjust and adjust and adjust, and you figure things out. So like one experiment that I did this week is that I did my Ant-Man and the Wasp review, and for that review I saw it at a press screening. I know it's a Marvel movie, so I know a good number of people are going to watch it. And so I want to put a lot of time into it, trying to think, I'm going to use this as an experiment to see what sort of response I get if I do like a cool little quick intro on it. And so I did like this green screen thing, and I'd show you wouldn't be able to show you anyway because there's a light right here, but there's a green screen and poster board on the ground right here for where I shot it. And then throughout the video, I did all these puns. And I don't normally do puns, but I tried to do something interesting, different. Intentionally thinking, some people might hate the fact that I'm doing an enormous number of ant puns, and some people might love it. But I want to see the response, and this is a video that fits to test the waters. So that was an experiment. And thus far, the response seemed to be great. And so that makes me go, okay, I need to think about more opportunities to do things like this and think about how can I have more of these kind of clever intros that aren't just me saying something clever, but like filming like a little mini 10-second skit. And how can I try and be funny with my jokes and things like that? And actually, I had a buddy of mine write most of my puns for me. He's a lot punnier than I am. But so that's what you have to do. Just constantly grow, try things, and you learn as you go.
Super chat from Rich Reviews. So
Thank you.
What do you think will happen if the studios find themselves caught up in the trade war with China?
Whoa, we're getting heavy on that one. What do I think will happen if the studios got caught up in the trade wars with China?
That's the question.
So I don't really know specifically what you're referring to. I don't know which elements. I know which cultural dynamics you're talking about, but you can just look at movies over the last 20 years, and Hollywood financing isn't primarily just from the United States anymore, and the audience for a movie isn't primarily the United States anymore. It's over 50% outside of the United States. Funding is coming from outside the United States, and you can just see that in blockbusters, to where whether a Transformers movie suddenly moves its third act to China or the middle act to China, just all sorts of little things of trying to appeal to different markets more. You can see that pretty easily. Even so, like one I watched recently, like Escape Plan. I don't know if this one was who exactly funded Escape Plan 2, but suddenly it like had a martial arts subplot in it. Half the cast of the movie is Asian. It was like the very like almost as if different funding came in because they're like, well, we're not going to make a lot of money in the U.S., but we can put it in theaters in China. And so what do we need to do to maximize that? And so I suspect there's a good bit of elements of that nature to where we're already moving in a direction to where it's much more of the studio system is much more of a global economy as opposed to localized to the United States. Hollywood is not just a United States thing. It is entirely designed for the world. And even some of the movies that we don't get anymore, whether you're Western sports movies that do all right in the United States but don't do particularly well outside of the United States, all of that I think goes back to already shifts in the funding of movies. Anyway.
In a minute, I'm going to need you to check because I missed some. Super chat from Andrew Paxton. Can you do separate ranks for each Bond actor?
So I started doing that. Yeah, I have a couple at the bottom. So anyway, yeah. So I started that initially. That was my thought. Is what I'll do is I'll rank each actor, and I'll put one video out for each actor as I watch all their movies, and then I'll keep good notes on everything, and I'll keep a running list of ranking all of them. But then I'll do a mega list once I finish ranking all the individual actors, and then I'd probably do something like George Lazenby with Timothy Dalton or something like that. And so then I did Daniel Craig's movies and tried that one, and it didn't do great. It did all right. But it didn't do enough to make me go, all right, now I'm going to watch 10 Roger Moore movies. And my thought was, if this is all Daniel Craig, if this is all the views that Daniel Craig got, how many fewer is Roger Moore going to get? And so then I backed off. And so I maybe need to, and that was about a year ago, 9 months ago, so my channel's in a very different place from when I did that little experiment. But I have had that thought. That's probably how I might roll this thing out and then do a mega list right when the new one comes out, or next one comes out. But it's tricky when I don't feel like the individual actor ones are going to be like big hit videos based off of my Daniel Craig one that I did.
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Could you rank the seasons for Gotham?
So I had a number of people ask me about this, And the problem is that I'm not finished with the current season of Gotham, but I'm on the current season. I'm just, like 5 episodes, 10 episodes behind, so I can catch up pretty quickly. Problem is, I haven't watched it with the interest or attention to have a strong difference of opinions between the seasons. And so I don't think so anytime soon. I'd need to rewatch them, and it's not a show that I'm like clamoring to rewatch. It's not one that she wants to watch with me. And so I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And even like if you're like, I don't even have a general impression. And that's kind of a problem. If there's a show where I'm kind of like, yeah, it's all kind of in the same sort of middle ground space, I just do not have strong opinions on the individual seasons based off my current experience with it. In which case, it's just not a good candidate for me to make a video, because what I don't want to start doing is open the door to me making videos just to create a video because I know people are asking for it. I know there's enough demand that I'll get views, so I just kind of push it out there without giving real opinions. I don't want to do that. And so if I don't feel like I have something to say, I might not make the content. I almost did a review for Ben Affleck's Daredevil back in May. I even said I was going to do it, and I never did because I watched the movie and I didn't feel like I had something to say. I didn't have a direction to go with it. It was just going to be like me hitting the record button and being like, it's not as bad as some people say. It's not as good as the new stuff that Marvel's doing. Well, that's not an interesting review. So I didn't end up doing it. And that's what I feel like I would do with... Wow, that's amazing. You're not ranting. You're not defending it. You're not playing devil's advocate. You're just kind of like...
You could do like a 10-second review.
Yeah, you posted a video like, that's all I got. The director's cut's longer. It has more Coolio, because it has Coolio.
Super chat from Leah Elkins.
Thank you.
Are you more excited? This is kind of long, so it's 2 parts. Are you more excited for How to Train Your Dragon 3 or Wreck-It Ralph 2? And could you do a journey to How to Train Your Dragon 3 reviewing Dreamworks movies?
Wreck-It Ralph 2, I'm more excited for that one. I've never been as kind of wrapped up in the How to Train Your Dragon movies. Like, you're all wrapped up in them because you think that Sadie's toothless. Not you, Doggy Bo. We're not talking about Sadie. But why are you underneath my chair? I'm live on the internet. 150 people are watching it right now. Doggy Bo. So self-absorbed. And they're good. I don't have any big issues with them. They're just not ones that I've been like, this is amazing. I'm so wrapped up in this. Wreck-It Ralph, the novelty of the video game stuff is just a little bit more interesting. Neither one of them is just like blowing my mind. Like the fact that they went with Ralph Breaks the Internet, I can't believe they're sticking with that title. That is just such a meme tied to a year that I don't get why they're still going with that one. But there's just, the bringing Star Wars into it, the Disney princesses, that kind of makes me interesting. Will I do a journey to How to Train Your Dragon 3? I don't know how many Dreamworks movies there are, so it depends on how many Dreamworks movies there are. There are people Dreamsies works these movies. I don't know how many there are, and people keep asking me to rank them. I'm open to it. I've got kids, so it's pretty easy for me to watch stuff like that, and it gives me variety so that I'm not watching The Magic School Bus or Peppa Pig. But it's... Hobby kids, or some guy screaming while playing Minecraft. Just obnoxious. So I'd be open to it, but there's a lot of them, so that makes it tricky. And I wouldn't do a Journey 2 series for that one. I'm not the right person to do Journey to Dreamworks, because for me to do a Journey 2 series, it has to be something that I have a strong enough drive to want to do it. Same with why I couldn't review that Daredevil movie. If I'm doing Dreamwork movies, I don't naturally gravitate towards it. I gravitate towards Jurassic Park movies. That's a franchise that we put in all the time. Even the bad ones. I put in bad, like the prequels for Star Wars all the time. Makes her mad. I watch the Mission Impossible movies all the time.
What makes me mad?
That I watch the prequels.
Oh.
And so those are ones that I can have something to say about it, Whereas when it's a movie where I'm like, this just isn't for me, or it's just kind of mediocre, it's boring content. There's just nothing for me to really say on it. So it makes it tricky. So I don't think I would do that type of thing, but it's possible that I'll watch all of them to rank them.
They're making a bunch of really interesting faces out of parentheses and stuff.
Yeah, kids these days understand the internet a lot better than us old people.
Speak for yourself. I mean, you're right, but don't call me old.
They'll say these things in the... So, Leah Elkins gave a super chat. There wasn't a question.
That was the one that's the one you just answered. The How to Train Your Dragon. And
okay, so it was fixed and... Okay.
She addressed it, so she gave it to me. So we're good.
Groovy.
Who is more hated? I'm not going to say all these right. Kathleen Kennedy, Avi Arad, or Ike Perlmutter?
Kathleen Kennedy for popularity's sake, because most hated, it's not necessarily degrees of hatred going on, where there could be spikes of hate for that individual, where someone individually just hates them more than everything. Kathleen Kennedy, because she's associated with Star Wars, which has this enormous, broad appeal, or group of people that are aware of it, means an enormous number of people are aware of Kathleen Kennedy and what she's done and what she's done with Star Wars. In which case, even if 5% of the Star Wars fan base hate her and 95% think she's doing an amazing job, 5% of the fan base of Star Wars is a whole lot of people. And that's where it's very easy for it to come off like, the Star Wars fandom's on fire because reasons like that. But absolutely it's Kathleen Kennedy because of the fact that she is associated with Star Wars, where Avi Arad, it's like, okay, it's like I don't know specific, and also I think you're tying in different types of hatred, where Avi Arad, there's some other things associated with her, where with Kathleen Kennedy, it's, I don't like what she did with Star Wars. She's the devil. That's probably want to be careful doing things like that, because you're making a scenario where no one wants to direct a Star Wars movie and no one wants to be over Star Wars. So the only person that will do it is Kathleen Kennedy, because she's the only person that'll put up with your crap. So you got to be careful with the way you treat people when you don't like what they make.
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk.
Thank you.
Coke or Pepsi?
Whoo! Coke or Pepsi or Dr. Pepper. I like variety, and so I'll have these very large shifts where suddenly because for years I was associated with Dr. Pepper extensively, and then I've been buying a lot of Coca-Cola and Pepsi recently. Like there's a bottle I was like, get me some Pepsi, woman, because that's the way I order my Pepsi in my household. And then I picked up a 20... She gave me a look. That's not the way it played out. I was like, Lover Beans, will you pick up some Pepsi when you get the pizza? It would mean the world to me, sweetie. Would you like a foot massage?
Actually, yes.
And then if you just want to put them right here up on the table, I can massage and put there's visuals. And then I bought a 24-pack of these. So I don't have a strong preference between Coke and Pepsi. I'm not in that camp where, like her, she won't drink Pepsi. Like she won't touch the stuff. My sister will not drink Mr. Pibb. Like finds it revolting. Like Mr. Pibb is even a concept of its existence is just offensive to her. I'm not like that at all. I like diversity.
This is a good question. How long will we be streaming for? We do have a super chat, but
I will probably go for about 20-30 more minutes. So that'll get us to about 2 hours. We'll be able to... Careful. What are you doing?
I'm stretching out my pregnant feet.
You're pulling on this light in front of me that makes me very nervous.
Super chat from Rich Reviews. Thoughts on a possible Lost reboot? Is that a thing?
I don't know if that's something you heard, or if that's a rumor, or you're just throwing the idea out there. What I think about a Lost reboot, I think it's a terrible idea, because it's too soon. There's nothing that you can add to the show Lost right now versus the year 2005. The nature of the show with people on an island, like what's the difference? Now Hurley's got an iPhone instead of an iPod. I mean, like, there's like the nature of it. You're not adding anything, and then it's also a show that doesn't lend itself to a reboot because it didn't end well. It kind of petered out, and so the magic of the start is kind of gone. And so what do you do with Lost? Because you'd have to try and fix it. You'd have to take it in a different direction, and I just don't. I don't think any of it on any level makes sense to bring it back or to reboot it or tell the story again differently. The parts that worked are magic television that are just like, wow, this is some of the best television ever made. And then it doesn't resolve any of it by the end. And you're like left, ooh. And I didn't hate the ending when it first happened, but then as I processed it and went, wait, what were the last 3 seasons of this show? What happened to this show in the end? So, yeah.
Okay, let's see. So,
quick ones.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm just trying to go. Do you have a favorite romance movie?
While You Were Sleeping, The Notebook, Romancing the Stone.
That's a good one. Do you watch How to Get Away with Murder?
We watched the first season, didn't we?
You didn't. I watched that, but I'm pretty sure by myself.
I watched like half the first season. Wasn't it like this?
It's a director I think you're not a fan of or something.
Yeah, it's like the Grey's Anatomy model of everything. So it's like it's a murder mystery where everybody bangs each other. It's a hospital where everybody bangs each other. It's CIA training where everybody bangs each other. Like. I just watching it being like, what is this, like the romance novel version of all of these concepts? Like, I don't. It's like it started off the first episode of Quantico. It's like the same. I don't know if it's from the same person, but it's like the same sort of thing. It was like, oh, this is an interesting little CIA, and then they bang each other in a car on the way to Quantico. Like, what? Why is everybody on all of these shows just like... There's a mumbly out thought.
Maybe the funniest thing I've ever heard you say.
Oh, no. Funniest thing you can share. I have so many more funny things that are just inappropriate.
Would you rather watch The Room for 24 hours or watch Batman and Robin for 24 hours?
I think I'd go with The Room. There's a lot more appeal to its badness than Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin's like a once a year, like, hey! The Room, it's magically bad. And am I at the Alamo Drafthouse as we're doing this? Because it's definitely The Room if it's with the Alamo Drafthouse with a crowd of people watching all of those long scenes where Tommy Wiseau...
Goodness, please stop. Do you prefer the Matrix trilogy or the Men in Black trilogy?
A Men in Black trilogy. As a trilogy. Simply because the Matrix trilogy just went off the rails in the second half of the second movie. And it killed its own mythology. The things I was like, oh, I love about this world and what you created and the type of storytelling that you're doing. And then we're going to be so subversive and go against expectations so that they just cut the legs off of what I loved about the first movie and then gave a crappy movie with no legs and a Neo with no eyes or powers in the third movie. And the biggest positive about that third Matrix movie is when I was watching it, I thought, wow, CGI's gotten good enough they could do a Superman movie now that could look really cool. I literally thought that while watching it the first time. But, and I've only seen Men in Black maybe two times ever. Like, I saw it in the theater, I was like, this is pretty mediocre. I don't know why I'd rewatch this. I just rewatched the first one again. And I've only seen the third one time. And I didn't like the let's tie it all together in a nice bow at the end of the third one. I didn't think that fit the franchise at all. I thought that was too big of a stretch. I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it made things better. It made me go, oh, that's cheap writing. But at the same time, it's not the wrecking ball to the franchise that the Matrix sequels were. So I had to go with Men in Black. But of all those movies, the best movie of the bunch is The Matrix by a lot.
Super chat from Nick Almost.
Thank you, Nick Almost.
Do you watch sports or play in high school?
I don't play high school sports right now because whenever I show up to practice, they get mad at me and they call the cops like, hey, why is this... So we talked about this at the beginning, so you probably came in a little bit later. So growing up, played a lot of baseball, and then I played basketball kind of less serious. Tried out for high school baseball, got cut immediately. One of the guys that was on that team that I got cut from, his name is Kelly Johnson. He went to go on to play in the major leagues. And we went to middle school. He cheated on me on some tests and stuff like that. We talked about Seinfeld.
Off you.
Cheated
off of you.
He cheated on me. That's a different thing altogether. But so he, I actually knew him a little bit. Not like we weren't friends. I'm not saying that, but actually knew him. He's been in the major leagues literally. Apparently he got signed out of high school, which I didn't know that. I read that on his Wikipedia page like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And he's still in the major leagues now, 18 years later. As for watching them, I don't regularly follow any sports. It's not something that I've never been able to follow them. I'd like to be able to get into UFC and watch that. You know, I picked up football to some extent just because I wanted something to... A couple years back, I started drinking coffee and doing fantasy football just to have more kind of rapport with people and be able to relate to them a little bit more. But I don't regularly really watch sports.
Super chat from Baby Lock Them Doors Stabber 77.
That is quite the name.
Yes. Congrats, you guys, on 50,000.
Thank you.
Super chat from Spino.
They just want to say that?
Yeah.
Then thank you.
Spino Extreme 55. What is the golden age of film?
For me, it's like it's the heyday of the Lucas and the Spielberg, where they kind of transformed things in the late 70s through the mid 90s. That's probably for me. If you look at my list of favorite movies, it's all from like Rocky until like 1995 or something like that.
Someone mentioned that earlier.
It's in a very specific
one. Favorite movies from anytime recent.
And that's for me kind of the ones where it just resonates the most and kind of has the most magic for me. It's tied to my childhood. It's the movies, and the reason that they're my favorites and not anything new. And I don't know that anything will be ever added to it, or I don't know what that would look like. But they're the movies that I've been enjoying for 30 years, for 20 years, and I just have a really hard time like watching The Dark Knight when I'm in my mid 20s and being like, this is as good as, and then listing off Die Hard, which I've been watching for 20 years. Like, this belongs on that list too. I just have a hard time doing that. So it's like I have to sit on it for a while. Like, do I still like it? And I just don't know that they can tie to the nostalgia of my youth. But anyway, so for that golden period of just magic filmmaking is kind of the late 70s through mid 90s.
Super chat from Rich Reviews.
Thank you.
At my Alamo Theater in the next couple of weeks, they're going to show Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, Starship Troopers, and Yellow Submarine. Which should I see?
Of those ones, I would imagine the best theatrical... I think probably the best theatrical experience at an Alamo Drafthouse of those movies would be Yellow Submarine, because there's going to be a bunch of people probably hopped up on drugs. So, in whatever Alamo Drafthouse is going to do, it's going to be amazing. Removing the substances out of the mix, I would go with, out of that bunch, Starship Troopers. Once again, for the same reason. That would be a fun movie to watch at an Alamo Drafthouse with people that have a very large pint. And I love Starship Troopers. It's a fun movie for me, but... another one from, like, I remember from high school, growing up watching it. But then just so corny, over the top, Paul Verhoeven violence. So a bunch of things that kind of make it work. Like watching Field of Dreams Great movie. Of those movies, I would say that's the best of those movies. But watching Field of Dreams with like a room full of people, I don't know what's added with the theatrical experience other than like we're crying together. His dad, they're playing catch. Like I don't know what. Whereas with drug-induced Yellow Submarine or the absurdity of Starship Troopers, there's a crowd experience to that that's a lot of fun.
Okay. What was your first job?
I got a job at a cookie store at Lakeline Mall. They had a cookie store. My buddy Vincent, who actually took me to Ant-Man and the Wasp this week, we've been friends since like the 3rd grade. He got me a job there. I think he was like an assistant manager. I started, and then the place closed 2 weeks later. Apparently, by the time that they'd hired me, they hired me, and then they went, "Oh, we're going under." And so the whole 2 weeks I worked there, my buddy, who's an assistant manager, knew they were about to close, but he wasn't allowed to tell me. And so my first job was at a cookie store for 2 weeks at the mall with my buddy Vincent. And then about 3-4 months after that, or some months after that, my buddy Vincent got a job at the local Chick-fil-A. And so then I got a job at the local Chick-fil-A, and I worked there for 3 years and was a manager for a year and a half there. And it ended badly, but so those were my first couple of jobs. The first one that like long, extensive memories was Chick-fil-A and all sorts of shenanigans there.
Have you seen the animated DC TV show Young Justice?
I've seen some of it. It never grabbed me, and at the point in time I was watching it, I was like, this is a little bit too adult for my son. And so I haven't watched through a season of it. I think I've watched about 6 episodes. That's what I can say. And it's one that I'll probably check another episode out to see if ready for my son yet and see how he responds to it. He responds to most of the DC cartoons really well. That's like his stuff.
Have you watched a series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix?
No, I haven't watched any of it.
What are your thoughts on having Michael Pena do a summary over the whole MCU?
So, I think this guy asked it in the comment section.
Yes. He's been asking very patiently or impatiently for a long time. I'm just moving my leg.
What? You're making me... All I see is this light hanging from the ceiling.
You're going to have to breathe and answer the question.
Making me nervous. If they did Michael Pena doing a summary of the MCU as
his storytelling,
in his of course, in his doing that storytelling format as a 6-minute, 10-minute short on one of the like Ant-Man and the Wasp Blu-rays, that would be like the best special feature they ever put on one of their discs. Right up there with the Thor and his roommate videos that Taika Waititi did.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it would be like that. It would be that level of like that is a great thing that they created. That would be my answer to it. So I don't want it to like a 30-minute thing. I don't want an hour-long thing. You do it as a 5 to 10 minute long short for the Blu-ray special features. That would be a very cool thing for them to make happen.
Do you think Captain Marvel will have SJW politics?
He was trying to pull me into some stuff. I don't know, get me in trouble. No, I don't think it'll be. I don't think there'll be anything that would bother me. And I say that because the other Marvel movies haven't done that. That's not the direction that Marvel has gone. And if you're super sensitive to things like that, maybe you can have found something and it bothered you or something. Perhaps something like that could have happened with you. I can't think of anything in the Marvel movies that I've been like, what is this? Can you think of any of the Marvel movies?
I'm reading. I'm sorry. I can't think of anything. No.
Nothing.
I mean, I'm bad at on the spot stuff like that.
And so as to the contrast, I would think Solo, a Star Wars story, you've got SJW, the robot that Lando's in love with. And so there's all sorts of weird, like, what? There's a freedom-based robot that, what do you need anything? Equal rights! There's very clearly, talking about very modern politics type things. And you just haven't seen that in the Marvel movies. So I wouldn't imagine that they would put something like that, do something like that in Captain Marvel. And I also wouldn't, having a strong female lead that's not SJW politics. That's just fun storytelling. It's a different type of storytelling. If you're just really sensitive to anything like that and be like, they're trying to shove their agenda, the women, like, there's a certain point in time where you just, that's a problem on your end, not their end. And I would say some of the stuff that, like Solo, what they did with the robot, I thought that was too far. It was too overt what they were trying to do. It was clearly the writer had something they wanted to say that was very topical to now that felt very weird in the universe. I just haven't seen that in the MCU, so I wouldn't think that they would do that with Captain Marvel. Is that a good answer? It seemed like I'm not going to make too many people too mad at that one.
It sounded fine.
You set me up. You asked a question. You always wait for my answers. Have you met the comment sections on the YouTubes when the SJW phrase, no matter what you say...
I'm sorry, your title says Ask Me Anything.
That's true. I did say Ask Me Anything, so you can ask me controversial questions. That's Ask Me Anything that won't get me in trouble with the comments. There's no answer you can give to a question that involves the letters SJW that's not going to get you in trouble with someone.
Best movie reboot. Not sequel. Reboot.
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 Oh, man. Best reboot. If you guys can throw some in the comment section and I'll read them off. Yeah, tell me in the comment section some of the best reboots. I'm just at this moment.
Am I on a delay?
Yeah, you're on a delay. So I'm going to ask you another question. So there's going to be a delay. I just need some answers kind of thrown my way. And reboot and remake are two different things. That also is making me kind of trip on it. A reboot is a restart of a continuity, not necessarily retelling of a story. A remake is a retelling of a story. So that could be throwing me off as well on I'm not coming up with any off the top of my mind just because
What's a silver play button?
100,000 subscribers.
Someone said that's in your near future. That was nice.
I've done the math. If things continue, it could be a Christmas present.
Merry Christmas.
That would be the craziest 2018. Like if that actually happens, I get that silver play button in 2018. Like we started the year like, wouldn't it be cool if I could go full time? If I got 40,000 subscribers, wouldn't that be neat? And then a week later, we find out you're pregnant. Everything with your job's gone amazing, and then YouTube's not 40,000, just blown up through the use. If I get that silver play button this year, it just. While you guys kind of come up with your reboot and remake answers, I'm trying to go as I go to motivational speaker, but like
we have so many questions.
But I'm waiting for their responses.
I know, but I could read you more questions.
I was always going to, but they asked the silver play button, so it turned into a thing worth addressing. Dreams do come true. Things do happen that can be successful. You can't be. Some people say you can be whatever you want to be. That's not true. Not everyone has all the potential to be anything, but you have the potential to be something, and you have the potential to be the best version of you. And sometimes it takes a long time to discover what that is, and it takes a lot of failure along the way. I mean, I blogged and put so much time into blogging for 8 years. I've made in 5 years of monetized blogging under $100. I never got my check from Google AdSense doing it. And like the numbers for me that was like, wow, I had one article that had 8,000 clicks. To me, it's nothing compared to YouTube. But I learned so much about branding and setting yourself up for success, how to write titles. I learned so much in like 8 years of failing at blogging. And then try something different with the movies and things like this. And I set ambitious goals and tried to work hard, but I never thought I was going to be where I am right now. You never thought we would be where we're at right now. And it's weird to think about. It's like, it's like Marvel, in a lot of ways, Marvel movies have transformed our lives and career trajectories and things like that. And like when I talk to people, I actually had talked with one of my friends at work about. We had kind of an off moment where we were talking about YouTube and all these kind of questions about it. I deliver paint for a living. Like, I have a literal blue collar at my job. Total normal person. And I just happen to, on the internet, have a lot of people that like to watch me talk about movies and TV shows. And that's what's cool about the world right now. You can be successful at things, so try lots of things and list off some reboots and remakes.
Failure is, what is it? A failure is an opportunity or a learning opportunity. There's some sort of fancy, like...
That's too hokey. I would never say anything.
How dare you? Casino Royale. I don't know if this Dark Knight trilogy, is that a reboot?
Yeah, it's a reboot. It's not a remake, but it's a reboot because the continuity restarted.
That's what we're talking about, right? Reboots. RoboCop?
No. Definitely not that one.
Beauty and the Beast?
Well, and so then those would be remakes. RoboCop and Beauty and the Beast would be a remake because it's telling the same story. Whereas Batman Begins was a reboot because it restarted the continuity, but not with the same story.
Psycho. Days of Future Past. I'm just reading.
Days of Future Past? How's that? That's not a... I guess that's kind of a... It says a soft reboot.
Jungle Book. Jumanji.
That's in continuity, so that's really technically a sequel.
Hold on.
It'd be like a soft reboot. Of these ones, I'll go with Batman Begins.
Spider-Man was another.
Yeah, so lots of... I wouldn't go with any of the Spider-Man ones as the best. So I think that Batman Begins was like the best, like... right moment of like they found this indie director guy with these creative ideas, and then they gave him this big property, and he did cool things with it.
Super chat from the Incredible Hulk. What
Thank
was
you.
the most disappointing movie yet of 2018?
Most disappointing? I don't... Have I been disappointed by a movie this year? It's probably Ready Player One, and it's a movie that I liked. I gave it a good review. But, let me see if I can pull up my list of movies that I've seen this year. Which ones are at the bottom? This is a stupid one to say this, but, so when I say disappointing doesn't mean worst movie of the year. Disappointing means the largest negative gap between expectations and what was delivered.
Oh, I'm sorry, wouldn't Star Trek be a reboot?
Yeah, Star Trek. That'd be another one. Star Trek 2009 would be a reboot that's in continuity, clever twists and turns on things.
And sorry, heads up, we've got 15 minutes, so when you said we were going to wrap up, so
okay.
Just FYI.
So big disappointments from this year, and none of these are not high caliber movies that I had big expectations for. They just were still below what I was expecting for the movies. Deep Blue Sea 2, dreadful movie. I just expected dumb fun, and it was just awful. Escape Plan 2, also, I was not expecting like a great movie.
Tell me Jesse Metcalf was in it.
I said like your man.
That's what you meant?
Yeah, I said. Didn't I say something like your man's in it or your boyfriend's in it?
You meant Jesse Metcalf?
Yeah. See, you just said you didn't tell me Jesse Metcalf was in it, which makes my point that he's your main squeeze.
Pretty good looking with a beard.
It's not good. So, but just so far below. I was thinking, it might be like good enough direct-to-video. It's just awful. Kickboxer Retaliation, another direct-to-video one. Like I just wanted some dumb fun. Just another awful one. But these are all like direct-to-video stuff. Cloverfield Paradox, another one I'm expecting just kind of middle of the road because it was straight to Netflix. Just not good. And then something like Ready Player One is one that I thought could have been up here. It was on my most anticipated of the year, and then it was good enough. So Death Wish, maybe no, I wouldn't put Death Wish. I didn't have high enough anticipation for it.
Oh my goodness, so many questions.
All right, let's fly through them. Quick ones.
I'm trying. What do you think about Black Siren going into season 7 of Arrow?
I don't know enough about Black Siren, and I'm enough burned on Arrowverse stuff that my expectations, I'm trying to like drop them down so I'm not disappointed. I have been just real frustrated with a lot of what they've been putting out on Arrowverse.
Someone asked earlier what show you would say jumped the shark, and I immediately thought of Arrow.
Yeah, of ones I still watch, I mean, Arrow's just, it's been gone for a while, and there's some things that it kind of got better, but then they broke other things, so.
Which movie character would you date?
Which movie character would I date?
That's a really broad group of people to pick from.
Yeah, that's a lot of people to...
Which movie character would you date? Someone asked Black Widow or Scarlet Witch, and I said Scarlet Witch. Answered on your behalf. but I think we've talked about that before.
we've talked about a previous one that Scarlet Witch amongst those ones. But at the same time, she's into robot things with rocks in their head, so that's weird. That's a freaky thing to be into. Movie character that I would want to date. I don't know. I've never thought about it in that sense. I've never thought about it from that direction, so I don't have one that comes to mind. You don't have any that come to mind?
Not off the top of my head.
That you want me to date? You know what I mean? What do you got?
Rich Review Super Chat. How much would someone have to pay you to watch the 50 Shades films?
Oh man, that's an uncomfortable question. So I haven't watched any of them, and it's not a I don't want to watch a crappy movie. It's all on moral grounds on both the in my mind.
It's also that you don't want to watch a crappy movie. I mean,
but as a movie review, I rewatched all the Twilight movies just to do a ranking video. There's an appeal to I'm going to watch something you don't normally watch.
Patreon too.
Yeah, but it was Patreon, but it was I chose it because of the novelty of reviewing something I wouldn't normally review. So there's the moral aspect of the show's just it's a softcore mommy porn is what it is. Like in which case I don't like that. There's that moral grounds to which I'm like I don't want to watch that and legitimize that in that sense. And then there's the other sense to it of I have serious issues with the content of the books from the quotes that I've read, summary type things. The movies kind of softened it a little bit, but that's
$1 million.
But that's really dangerous to be okay with. Well, they softened some of the abuse aspects and the control aspects from the books. You read some of these quotes of the books and you're like, this is an abusive relationship, both physically and emotionally, because this is not the way BDSM stuff works. This is not the way submissive is supposed to work. This is a very broken man that is controlling, manipulative. She should not be anywhere near him. And by turning this into a romantic fantasy about her fixing him, you are sending a message to people that are in broken relationships that are abusive, that they are in danger emotionally and physically for themselves and for their children, that you can fix him if you're good enough, if you submit enough, if you behave enough, maybe you can fix him. And that's a message that when you send to abuse victims that can get them killed. But even if not without the extreme case, it's such a dangerous thing that that's where to me the 50 Shades stuff, I've been shocked at the treatment of them from Hollywood that they didn't especially as #MeToo stuff started to come out, especially 2 years ago as all these clips of Trump are dropping about a rich white man using his power to get away with things and saying things, and then they drop a trailer about a rich white man using his influence to woo a girl that's not comfortable with things that he's doing. I was shocked that they went through with it, and I just mind-blowing to me. So that's where I have big issues with them.
Yes, you do. That was a deep answer.
Did you think I was going to give a shallow answer?
No. Super chat from Yasir Beg. Sorry if I said that wrong.
Thank you so much.
Have you seen Breaking Bad? Is it the best show?
Not only have I seen Breaking Bad, I have been to Walter White's house in Albuquerque. Is that Albuquerque? It's a quirky city. It's weird and wacky with crystal meth everywhere. Yeah, so we watched through it, and we like most people started binge watching it around season 4, and then we watched along with it, and then we watched the finale live when it aired, which I don't know, I wouldn't call it the best show ever, but it's one of the great shows of all time. And the finale, being that we watched the Dexter finale a week earlier, seemed like it was the greatest thing that had ever been made, because the Dexter finale was so bad and unsatisfying that the Breaking Bad finale just seemed like magic on the screen. But and then when I was on one of my trips to go to the Navajo Nation, on our way going back from there, we stopped in Albuquerque, And while everyone was in their hotel rooms, probably watching Breaking Bad, swimming in the pool, whatever, I snuck off with one of my interns to go take pictures at the Walter White House because it was only about 10 minutes away. So it's on my Instagram feed. If I was didn't have such an itchy nose right now, I would look that up and post it on the screen. Actually, let me see if I can look for that. What do we got?
Someone said that while you were describing 50 Shades, it sounded like you're describing Beauty and the Beast.
It's kind of true.
You should rank the Batman Arkham games.
That's in the works. That's something I plan on doing. So, wait for it.
Walking Dead has been brought up a lot.
Don't watch it. I've seen seasons 1 and 2, and then she doesn't watch it, and so it just became too difficult for me to.
She can't watch it.
She can't watch it, and then so I stopped because of reasons like that, and then everything I've heard that it just kind of peters out as it goes along. So I never.
Which movie coming out later this year do you think is being underhyped?
Movie coming out this year that seems underhyped. Oh, that's tough because there's so many different directions to take that one. And then even later this year, sometimes they're underhyped just because they haven't really started the marketing yet. And the fact that they haven't started the marketing on Aquaman. So you could say Aquaman's underhyped because there's no hype, because there's no trailer. It's just there's a release date and a little banter, and then the trailer's going to drop in a couple weeks at Comic-Con. But, man, what's one that... and then underhyped kind of depends on what circles you're in as to what should be hyped. And, underhyped. I don't have one that comes to mind. Those are just some of my thoughts on it, but I don't. Yes.
Super chat from Rich Reviews.
What do we got?
Are you a Longhorn or an Aggie?
Aggie. I almost went to Texas A&M. It's not a fun story. It's like actually a tragic story. I got accepted to Texas A&M and was going to go there, and then my dad got sick and died, and it messed up all my plans of what I was going to do. So I did not end up going to Texas A&M, but and then I sent an enormous number of my former students to Texas A&M and then had them come and intern for me when they came back. And so I have far, far more connections to Texas A&M and than I do to UT, and then probably more positive experiences too with them. Here it is. Okay, I found this picture.
Oh my word. Okay.
But I get nervous. UT's a kind of a wacky place.
Cousin's not gonna like that.
He knows it. How do you not know?
What's your favorite James Franco film?
Dawn of the Planet of the Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Disaster Artist.
I heard James Gunn is interested in Moon Knight, and he is most likely to come in at Phase 4 of the MCU. What are your thoughts?
All right, if this should show up on the screen for you guys shortly, or is already... well, actually, by the time you're hearing my voice say this, it's already up there. But here's me at Walter White's house in Albuquerque. I don't know enough about Moon Knight to have thoughts on it. I get very skeptical a lot of these rumor mill type things about what James Gunn might want to do afterwards. If you're James Gunn, why would you want to do another Marvel property and get locked in on doing those when you could? He's at the top of his game now, has the influence power to be able to do whatever. He's a creative type person, so he probably has ideas that he just kind of wants to go off to his own thing. Why would he want to go and get stuck just doing another Marvel thing, in which case, 15 years of his life would be stuck doing Marvel movies. So I don't have I don't know enough about Moon Knight or the specific rumors, but I sound very skeptical to me, and I don't know that of the characters for them to make Phase 4, Moon Knight doesn't seem like one. You a big Moon Knight fan?
I don't know.
Exactly. You have no clue who Moon Knight is.
I didn't know who Iron Man was.
You knew.
I'm just saying.
The difference between your not knowing who like I can show you a picture of Iron Man. You're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. No. I still don't. I still have 10 years later. I still have a hard time believing you have no clue.
For the previews, who Iron Man was. No idea.
Maybe you are living in a box.
Thank you. Will you rank the John Wick movies when number 3 comes out?
Yes.
What's your favorite?
That's a safe answer to any question like that.
I'm just trying to get some
Safe answer to will I rank X thing that's very much in line with something that I'd be interested in when there's 3 of them out? The answer is probably yes. That's how I decided my ranking video schedule of here's a new franchise that just came out, then I'll rank it. So I don't always do that. Like Hotel Transylvania, I probably won't rank all 3 of those because like I didn't watch the first 2 ones beforehand. It's just not my wheelhouse. But action movies are. So that's very likely. You can just look at the upcoming releases out the fall, next year, and figure out when I'm going to be putting out certain ranking videos.
What's your favorite Switch game? If you don't have one, what's your favorite game overall?
I haven't played any Switch games other than Mario Kart at Best Buy. That's all I've played on the Switch is Mario Kart at Best Buy. So Mario Kart, but we still have our Wii. We didn't even have a Wii U. We just have a Wii. So we're not super up to date on these things, but Mario Kart 8.
I know what game you don't like. That fighting game.
Did they? What's the question?
No, they just said if you don't play that, what's your favorite game? And I was just saying your favorite is not that fighting game you've been playing.
Did they ask me what my favorite game is?
Yes. If you didn't have a Switch game, what was your favorite game?
Right now, I play a lot of Battlefront 2, but I don't know what the favorite in that sense is. It's difficult to answer because you're talking about all time. You're talking about right now. Definitely not UFC 2, which is a terrible game. Just bought it. Thought I'd have fun with it. It made me angry.
Least favorite Office character.
How do you pick between Nellie, Gabe, and Robert California?
Will Ferrell. What was his character?
I don't think he's as bad as him. He's not good. He's more bad because he's such a waste of Will Ferrell, but he's not as immediately just like, oh my goodness, these characters are terrible as those other ones.
You're saying I'm being mean. Did you watch Rampage?
Yeah. I was like,
okay,
I was trying to think through.
I'm gonna need to cut you off.
Well, no, so I was trying to think through it as a TV show. I mean, so here's the problem with the question. I have a review up on my channel of Rampage.
Right.
I reviewed it when it came out. And so then when you asked, did I see Rampage, I'm thinking outside of what, I'm not thinking things that I just reviewed a couple or months ago on my channel. I'm thinking, is it a TV show? Are you talking about the Uwe Boll movies from 10 years ago or whatever? Or, so I was trying to think of something else, but yeah, I am kind of losing it a little bit, but yeah, I reviewed it on my channel.
He's not going to rank his ranking videos.
Yeah, if you guys want to start a channel and rank my ranking videos, is so long as you do it with the kind spirit. Like I'll share it in my, I'll probably share it on my community tab, and so you'll get several thousand views on it. My body is giving out on me.
Oh my word. You sound terrible. What is going on?
I didn't do my inhaler the last couple days. But so if you guys have a channel and you want to rank what are top 10 ranking videos from Sean Chandler, I'll watch your video and see. But you got to do it in a good, kind-hearted spirit. Even if you want to say like, here's the weirdest one he did, it's a loving spirit. It's a loving roast. I'm fine with it. But I can't rank my own videos. Like, I can tell you a couple of them that I can tell you which ones were really important. And they're kind of random. So, my first time I ranked the Star Trek movies is the first one I ever did. That's really important. Then I decided when Fast and the Furious, or Fate of the Furious came out, I just decided, hey, why don't I start ranking franchises like every week? Whenever a new franchise come out, why don't I do it? That's really important for my channel. And so that one's huge. Even though it's not like a great ranking video, but and then the Transformers one I did, I think it's one of the worst ones I've ever done, but it was me learning to rank franchises that have very differing opinions on the movies inside of it and figuring out how to do ranking videos, and learned by making a bad video. So that was important. Which I think is Marvel 17. when Thor Ragnarok came out, very important. But as for which ones are the best ones, I don't know. Because I'm not the best judge of that, because I made them. It's my content, so I view it very differently than you guys do. You guys would have to be the ones to say, this was your best ranking, this is a terrible... You would know better than I would.
Have you ever watched 30 Rock?
Yeah, we never finished it. We watched the first 2-3 seasons a lot, and then we never finished the last season. Like, we're up to the last season, we just never finished the show.
I think you already addressed Shrek in your Dreamworks spiel, yes?
I didn't address Shrek specifically.
Would you rank it?
Yeah, but I have to watch it.
Who would win?
That's some of the answer on these ones, once again, of... With these big franchises, if I've watched them, I'll probably rank them. Or when I watch them, I will rank them. But I either don't regularly watch them, or it hasn't just happened yet. But like Lethal Weapon movies, I watch them all the time, so... I needed content for a week. I wanted something different outside the box. I watch Lethal Weapon movies all the time, so I could do that. Shrek movies, I do not watch all the time. I think I've kind of watched all of them, but I've only kind of watched all of them. I mean, they all came out after I graduated high school. I wasn't like running out, oh, look, Michael Myers is an ogre. Wow. Like, I didn't rush out to go see that one just because of my, when you're 19 years old and that movie comes out, it's not the first thing that comes to mind to go watch. So I'd have to rewatch them with my kids or something like that.
And I don't think I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
Who would win, Ben Wyatt or Jim Halpert?
Who would win in...
It doesn't say in what? A fight?
So I'm going to go with Jim Halpert just because I'm more invested in The Office. And I think I have to go with Jimmy. Andy moved to Austin, so he's like me. He's an Austinite.
Well, he moved in this show, yeah. Are there any movies...
We're talking about Jim
I
Halpert.
know. Are there any movies you feel are better than the book? Can you think of some?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know of any. I'm not as... I think there are questions that are a little bit... This is getting gross now.
Goodness.
Boogers are coming out of my nose.
Stop it.
What? I don't know what to do.
Don't say it. Oh my god. Ask your wife to go get you a tissue.
It's just so bad. I've been talking for so long. I'm sure Meg will be better than the book because I didn't think the book was very good. Jurassic Park probably is on par with the book. They're both very good at what they're trying to do. In the scheme of memorable films versus memorable movie or books versus movies, Jurassic Park is probably a bit more iconic, legendary than the book Jurassic Park, probably. But I'm not as also much of a purist on some of those things. And like some of the stuff where, well, it's different from the book, therefore it's not as good. That's not a good criteria because they're different formats, different storytelling type things, so you have to change things. And it's a question of did they make a great film? And I don't know. I've got thoughts.
We have a super chat from Gavin and Nicole. They asked if I saw their question. They said, love the channel, Sean. I didn't see the question, so I'm looking for it. As soon as I can find it, I will ask you. Oh, here it is. Well, it's not a question?
Yeah, so the only one that I'm seeing here from Gavin and Nicole says, love the channel, did you see my question? That's the only one that I'm seeing.
Well, then I'm seeing one, hey, Sean, this is Gavin from WBCC. Have you had the time to check out me and Nicole's from HCBCPF channel? We definitely love a shout out. Have a good night, brother. I didn't see another question, so I don't know if it's just the shout out or...
Yeah, I don't... So off the top of my head, with a bunch of people watching me, I don't know how to... I don't know exactly what we're talking about because I'm just hearing letters that I assume refer to Hill Country in Pflugerville. In Wellsboro. Okay, yeah, so I'm
assuming in Hill Country Bible Church.
So I think I know who what we're referring to. I think I've had a couple messages with some of the people. Yeah, I'm aware of it. I don't think I've fully checked anything out, but I can do so. If you guys are actually friends with me on Facebook, so you can send me a message with that, and I can do my best to check that out. But everyone watching right now, check out their channel and see what you can do. They're humans that I know from real life, which is fun and exciting. Several people that I know in real life have YouTubes now.
I'm calling 3 minutes, and we're going to go as fast as we can through as many of these as we can. What would you do if Jaws was hunting you? How would you kill it?
How would I kill it?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of... I mean, that's a tough question
Oh
because,
my
like, I'm in
word.
my house right now, so if Jaws is hunting me right now, that means Jaws has gained the ability to walk. So you're talking about a land shark, in which case, how would I hunt it? I mean, well, when you got a land shark, all bets are off. So...
I'm not doing good at this succinct answer.
Right. Well, you asked me a question. There's no succinct answer. How would... If Jaws is chasing me, how... You know how my brain works. I'm going to start concocting a story. If you told me I was on a yacht... and Jaws was tracking me, then I have a contacts. But
I read you the question as
but
it was composed.
All that to say, I would turn the gas in my on my oven, even though I don't have gas here where I live. Turn the gas on my oven, and then I would put some roast on the top of the stove, and then I would say, "Shark, look, I've cooked you dinner." And then when he would come towards me, I would light it, and then I'd have a line. I'd have a really good line. Like, eat this. Like, that's real clever. And then I would jump out the window, and the house would explode. But I already, just so you know, I already took all of our photos out, and the kids, and our hard drives, and our pets.
And me.
Well, you're not here. You're out at the lake house. But I took out a second home insurance policy on the house, so we now get $5 million, and we blew up a shark. That's a good answer right there. I don't think I answered your question the way you wanted it, though.
Hold on, sorry.
My nose.
Stop touching your nose. Okay, quick reactions or whatever on Scrubs, White Collar, The 100.
Okay, go one at a time.
These are the ones that are
quick reactions. Tell me one at a time.
Psych.
Watched season 1. Someone asked you or something like that. Wasn't for us.
Brent reminded you of Sean, or Brent was reminded. Like I wasn't reminded. No.
Yeah, we watched it. It just wasn't for us. We didn't hate it or anything like that, but it wasn't. It just didn't like hook us. We watched enough. We were interested enough to watch one season.
White Collar.
I've only watched a few episodes. You've watched a lot more.
I have.
Did you finish the show or just watch 3 or 4 seasons or something like that?
Don't know. I finished the seasons that I started. I don't know if they're
so she
since then.
She might not. She may or may not have finished it, but she watched like 4 seasons, 3-4 seasons of it.
Scrubs.
It's a show that when I watch it, I'm like, well, this is really good, and there's very creative. I love it when shows have this sort of... So early in the stream, I said that Friends is vanilla. It's just like, friends together, being funny. Something like Scrubs I respect a lot more, because it's interesting, and there's a wit to it, and intelligence to it. But I've never watched through all of Scrubs at the same time, and so when I watch it, I respect it quite a bit, but I haven't actually watched through all of it.
And then the last one was The 100.
Haven't watched any of it. There's no particular story or reason behind that. It's just not a show that I've ever started.
While we're on quick responses, do you watch Fox's Legion?
I've watched the 3 or 4 episodes of it, and it didn't pull me in. And it was like I was doing homework. It was having to try too hard to watch it.
Here's another scenario for you. If Infinity War happened in real life, what would you do?
I'd either be dead or have my family would be dead, so I'd be pretty rocked by that. I'm not quite sure if it was real. Like I'm watching the news, like, oh crap, that third world country that turned out to be the most advanced country. There's a bit of a war going on there. It's pretty good news. Oh, I'm turning to dust. Crap. I don't know what it's supposed to say to that one. I don't know where you would go with that one.
Are you happy Zack Snyder was fired from Warner Brothers?
No. I don't know what being fired from Warner Brothers means. I don't know. That light is moving again.
Honey, it's fine. It's fine. I just bumped it with my leg. What do you think about the ending of Luke Cage season 2?
bold, didn't feel earned, didn't feel like it was the logical conclusion of... It didn't feel like that's what the season was building towards enough. Because it was like, oh, wow. And there were like little hints, like thinking back, and I was like, okay, there was this and this here. But at the same time, I was watching, I was like, this doesn't seem like what he would do in this moment. So...
Is that your chair?
It's this thing I'm fiddling with.
Don't do that, please. That's a terrible sound. Would you rank Parks and Rec?
I'd have to rewatch all of it to be able to do that. And I don't think I'm going to do that anytime soon. I probably would have strong enough... I would have opinions to be able to do it, but, if at some point in time we decide, hey, let's not rewatch The Office a fifth time, let's go through Parks and Rec, it could potentially happen.
How many hours do you spend replying to comments on your videos? So many hours.
A lot. I a lot of time responding to comments, and some of it I just always have my phone with me, and so then if I'm driving to work and I'm at a red light, I responded to two people, and that's why some of my grammar's bad and capitalization will be off. There's two reasons for that actually, but a lot of it's just because I'm responding so fast that it's like I can either try and write great sentences with great grammar, spelling, punctuation, everything, and respond to a few people, or I can respond to a lot of people as quickly as I can. And I also try not to give crappy responses. I try to say things in my responses and where I'm coming from. So a lot of times I'll write something, I don't want to come off that short, and so then I'll go back and I'll edit it to add a second, third sentence onto it. But also the other reason is my main computer doesn't have an I. There's no I, and so I have a second keyboard, but the shift on one doesn't affect the other one. And so the normal way you type things, you get motor muscle programmed to... so I'll do stuff like this, where I have one hand on one keyboard, one on the other, and I'm hitting shift and so it doesn't work to do that. So I have bad capitalization for that reason. But I mean, I constantly trying to respond as many as I can.
Are you excited for Mega Man 11?
No. Because I haven't played a Mega Man game since the Super Nintendo. So probably, you might not have been born the last time I bought a Mega Man game.
Do you like Ben Affleck or Christian Bale better as Batman?
I think Christian Bale has given us a more well-rounded and given us a full story arc that was consistent, whereas I think Ben Affleck gave us one movie that I really liked, a lot of the nuance to it. Some of the directions I wasn't, on the writing side, I wasn't crazy about, but I thought what he did was really good. And then he gave a second movie where he... I don't know if the writing was watered down, if he was just sleeping through the role. He got mad with the reshoots, and so was just checked out. But, I mean, I didn't like him in Justice League really at all. I need to rewatch this. I've only watched it one time, and I was very disappointed by it. So I need to rewatch it, but that one really knocked him down for me. So Christian comes out on top.
I'm just going to say that some people are getting a little sassy in the comment section because we haven't gotten to their question yet. And if you're rude, I'm not going to get to you.
Yeah. I mean, come on, people. There's right now there's only 106 people in here. It was 150 people before. There's a lot of questions.
I've got
and
a list I'm going down.
And a lot of the questions
and
a lot of the questions you guys ask have already been answered.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but a lot of them have. Or they're questions
that... a lot of them are written on a list that we're trying to get to as well.
And so there's just a lot of different things to it, and I don't know what the list is, and I tend to go long. And so I'm not very good at giving short answers, and that's part of the reason the appeal of the way I articulate things is that I don't just say yes, no, I don't just kind of give the answer. I want to explain why and where I'm coming from, which means I give long answers, which makes it tough to go through things, but fire some things off. I'm going to give short answers to a bunch of these real quick.
As much as you can.
As best I can, which is to say not very good.
Thoughts on Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Another one.
Well, you can just like or not.
So I grew up watching it. I dug it back in the day. My kids are now into it, and they watch the 80s movie a lot. And so then, I went to the library growing up, and I'd rent the out records of their versions of hit songs from the 80s. So, yeah, I have nostalgia memories for them, and my kids watch them now.
I love the movie from the 80s. It's one of my favorite childhood movies. Did you watch Cobra Kai? Thoughts?
We watched Cobra Kai. We really did, in particular, her, shocked at how much she liked it. The idea about a 50-year-old man being mean to teenagers with kind of this, like, don't be wimps.
It was really fun to watch with you, though.
Yeah, that's like my sort of thing to like misbehaving adults beating people. That's the sort of way I appealing things to me. But she really dug it. So we watched the first 2 free episodes, and she's like, "Are we going to watch the rest of them?" And so we did, and we still actually have our YouTube Premium account because it's really nice to not have commercials on YouTube. We didn't like the turn in the last 2 episodes of kind of who's the villain and which students are doing what. There's a character shift at the last 2 episodes that I didn't enjoy that particularly. But besides that, and I liked it a lot.
Do you think Pixar is improving? Do you think they'll ever beat their golden age?
I don't think they're improving. I think that they've been doing this since about 2010, which is to say that they're sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so bad. They're so good. They had a few years in there they were pretty rough, and then they got a lot better. But then they still had like Cars 3 last year. But right now they're on the Coco Incredibles 2 train. So they're doing this.
Ooh, interesting.
I don't think that they'll ever get back to the magic that was, kind of that 10-year time period there where it's just kind of like these crazy ideas that shouldn't be movies for kids turning into great movies for kids and adults at the same time. It's tough to get back to that. That's something special that just kind of happens, that the right creative force comes in, has the right people around them, and you just get magic. And that's kind of what happened.
I know, I'm sorry. Thoughts on Hollywood making reboots and remakes? You didn't say anything about that.
In general, I don't mind it. I don't like it when Hollywood is just playing safe. I don't like it when they're rebooting and remaking things just for brand recognition, when they don't seem to have a worthy reason to bring it back. There's not a new take on it. Like, I've repeatedly said that I think Back to the Future is more ripe than most to be remade because the central concept of it is transferable, which is a teenager from 1985 going back to 1955 is very interesting in and of itself. But that same idea of a teenager from 2020 going back to 1990 is also in and of itself an interesting idea. That's a transferable concept that as time passes,
Give it to me.
As time passes, that concept continues to be new and fresh and interesting. Modern day smartphone-induced teenagers going back before smartphones and the internet is interesting. But remaking RoboCop PG-13 with nothing added, like, why are we doing this? Rebooting or remaking Total Recall without having something new to add to it other than let's take out the weirdness, the ultraviolence, and Mars, but it's still Total Recall. I don't understand.
It's just his ear. Cody Leach says I should take you out.
Like loosen the cord then.
Then I'm just gonna take it down. There. Go.
You have to have a question.
Oh. Which is better, Forrest Gump or The Shawshank Redemption?
I've got way more nostalgia for Forrest Gump. That's much more the movie that, in the year I was watching that one. I guess, and also throw in the mix, you have to throw Pulp Fiction in. So you throw Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, and Shawshank Redemption. I would go Pulp Fiction. I don't know what I would do with the other two. It's tough because I very much respect Shawshank Redemption, but that's not one that I've had as many connections to. And then have so much nostalgia for Forrest Gump, but it's also a movie that as time passes a little bit more like, this is a weird, schmaltzy... This is an odd film in its own way as I kind of get older, so... Pulp Fiction is my answer to the question of, do I prefer Shawshank Redemption or Forrest Gump?
What if Warner Brothers tried to solve their problems of the DCEU being too dark by getting Joel Schumacher to direct every future movie?
I don't think the problem with the DCEU has ever been that it's too dark. That's never been the problem. I don't think at all. And that's, I think, part of the problem with Justice League is that they went, the problem here is that people thought that Batman v Superman was too dark. That wasn't the problem with the movie. The problem was misunderstanding the characters and like making Superman hopeless. So you take the most hopeful superhero that has ever lived, and then you make him moping around in this deconstruction, and the news is criticizing him, and then you make Batman the Punisher, and like he's so angry because everyone died. It's not that the movie's dark; it's that it's hopeless, and hopeless doesn't fit right with Superman, especially when we haven't really gotten a full, just normal Superman, and then there's some story issues in there. I don't think the problem has ever been the darkness of the movies, and so, but actually your question is about should Joel Schumacher come in. That's also a misunderstanding of the characters and tone in its own way, so that would not be a good solution to the problem.
What's your favorite board game?
Clue or Risk?
Okay.
I say Clue because I like the movie, and Risk because I like to go to war with people.
I have 8 questions. I'm capping it. Answer those, and then we'll wrap it up. Yes?
Okay, if you've got good, nice 8 questions. Yeah.
Well, this one, don't make it long. But I'm going to read it anyway. How did you and your wife meet? I bet it's a romantic story.
I was on this beach in Cayman Islands. So we grew up we didn't grow up going to the same church, but by the time I was graduating high school, she was in the youth group with me at the church. I'm a couple years older, and by then it was a pretty big youth group, and so we didn't exactly know each other, but we knew of each other. And then when my band played at a youth group function, and we were throwing muffins at the crowd and stuff like that because we were a crazy ska band, she was in the audience, so she knew of who I was. And then we met 13 years ago at a 4th of July party where I was friends with the son. Actually, I went to the movies with him tonight to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I work out with him still. So I was friends with him. She was friends with the daughter and the family dynamic. So we're at the 4th of July deal. She was going to the college I was about to go to college at. And so I asked her about the area and churches in the area and things like that, and got her number from this one. And then she was going to stop going to college out there and needed someone to drive her out there so she could drive her car back. And so she asked if she could ride in the car with me as I drove to South Carolina from Texas. And my life philosophy is if you ride in a car with someone for 20 hours straight, you're either going to marry them or hate them at the end of it. And we got married a year and a half later.
That was very good. That was much more succinct than I was expecting.
I've told that story before.
I know. Most underrated movie franchise?
Underrated movie franchise?
Underrated movie franchise.
These are hard ones to just kind of off the top of my head because because to even describe underrated, you have to, what does someone mean by underrated? So I have to perceive it as an underrated franchise, but then I want to factor in what other people might think is an underrated franchise. And I don't know. I don't like underrated franchise.
You can say I don't know. That's an answer for tonight.
I don't have one that immediately comes to mind. A franchise that's underrated. I think part of the problem is, by definition, if it's a franchise, it's already getting sequels, in which case I look at it and I go, it's successful enough that there's multiple movies, so is it underrated? Or are you talking about, well, the Transformers movies are underrated because they're better than their reception? So I don't have one. I can't think of something off the top of my head like that.
What do you like better, Indoraptor or Indominus Rex?
Indominus Rex. Because it's more designed as a character in the movie. Whereas Indoraptor's like, surprise, we got another thing that's loose now. whereas the plot of Jurassic World is built around Indominus. And so then you have a lot more sense of like, let's take it down, and we're trying to stop it, and they're failing doing this and this and this. And then we got Jurassic... I called Chris Pratt Jurassic Owen, is what I was about to call. So Jurassic Owen is on his motorcycle with his raptors, and that doesn't even work. And so what about we up this? We got Chris Pratt, raptors, and a T-Rex to take him down, and then the gigantic SeaWorld dinosaur... SeaWorldosaurus bites him. Like, that's an actual kind of story arc, as opposed to like, there's just like this thing that's loose now. That's not very interesting to me.
In that vein, would you rather be stuck in a house with the Indoraptor or have to swim in the Mosasaurus's tank for an hour?
The house with the Indoraptor by a ton, because if you're in the tank with the big creature, that's his turf. That's his game. And an hour of swimming is a lot of swimming, so you're probably gonna die. Whereas in a house with an Indoraptor, there's a lot of things about the human, particularly the opposable thumbs, that give you the advantage over an Indoraptor. And you can go into spaces it can't go, and there's all sorts of things you can do that make it much easier for you to be able to live, as opposed to in water with a swimming dinosaur.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize you were wrapping that answer up. Do you have a favorite meal?
No.
Would you like an MCU movie with just Groot and Rocket?
But I like sushi. I like steak, fish, and spaghetti. Would I want a movie that's just Groot and Rocket? I don't think I'd want a movie of that. It's an interesting idea. I'd go see it opening night, but I don't know that let's take the other people out of the mix. Does that suddenly make them better? Is there something unique about them that you can tell something distinct about? I don't think so. I don't think that there's an extra story that you get by just having the two of them. In particular, because it's like small raccoon that's angry and kind, sometimes angry big tree, or little tree, or baby tree. I don't see the... You don't have a clear lead character, which is why you have a Star-Lord as your kind of lead character in the Guardians movies, because he's designed as a character to be a front-leading man.
If it's not a spoiler, favorite moment in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom?
Favorite moment in it? I don't have a clear favorite moment in it, I don't think. Yeah, I don't have a favorite moment that I can think of. Like, I like some of the physical humor where Pratt couldn't move and he's kind of rolling around with this. The lava was coming after him. Like, I liked some stuff like that and the Pratt-isms in the film. But there wasn't necessarily like a clear single like, oh man, this was like just an awesome moment. You don't have the, and then he jumps in his helicopter and a raptor's flying the helicopter and Chris Pratt's on the minigun like, you don't have like this ridiculous moment like Chris Pratt on a motorcycle with raptors running next to him.
Okay, last question.
Okay, I believe you.
Would you cast Matthew McConaughey as Norman Osborn?
Would I cast him in that role? That's probably not the immediate direction that I would go, trying to think of who to put in that role. I don't think he does not have the... When you think of what distinctly could Matthew McConaughey bring to a comic book movie role, Norman Osborn, they don't line up quite right, because Norman Osborn, you think the dignified businessman with the dark side, and Matthew McConaughey's distinctives, the things that he brings to the table, that his natural strengths for him to lean into, it's not dignified businessman. That's not, especially as a Austinite. He's an Austinite. the dynamic that he can bring to something as a Texan, it's just a very different sort of vibe. And in particular, when you think like, actually that's probably it. That's probably the key thing is that Matthew McConaughey to me is so much a proud Texan, and Norman Osborn is in New York City. He's a New York City guy, and just inherently they're different things to me. It would be very odd for me to like see Matthew McConaughey behaving like a Texan or like a New Yorker, dignified businessman. That'd be odd.
I did say last question, but Cody Lee just a question. Child's Play TV series with no Brad
Dourif.
Yes, voicing Chucky, or MGM Child's Play remake with no. I don't know if he fixed his question, but I don't get it. With no Brad Dourif voicing Chucky, which is a worse idea. And then he said TV series has Brad Dourif voicing. Sorry. So Child's Play TV series with Brad Dourif voicing Chucky, or MGM Child's Play remake with no Brad Dourif voicing Chucky, which is a worse idea.
Which is a worse idea?
No.
I would think that the TV show is a worse idea, because I just don't understand how you make a weekly Chucky kills people show. That doesn't... Things like that, that feels like a cinematic thing. Every couple years, Chucky shows up in a new place. He's in an insane asylum. He's at some house. He finds Andy somewhere. And so you find him in different places. Every couple of years you give him a new... He's married, and so now Tiffany's in a doll. Shows up, he has a son, and we make a terrible movie. But you have these different contexts where you can take the character and do something different. Whereas with a TV show, week after week, this week he kills... I just don't understand what the concept is that works well for a TV show. And so then, in my mind, there's a bit of a chance that if they did a reboot of the franchise and we're going to go all new doll, new creative force. So I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy that's behind writing them and has directed a few of them, that guy's out. We're getting some new blood in, a new voice. There's the potential that they find a new angle on it. It's not something I understand why they're doing it, but I don't understand either one of these ideas. But I can see there's the potential that could actually be good, whereas I don't see the positive potential in the TV show.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this live stream, for the questions. 2.5 hours in, we are. Woo! Oh, man, and my nose is killing me.
We've been calling to read off.
Yes. As I'm watching on here, it's like certain angles my nose isn't so bad, and then certain angles it just turns bright red. Yeah, thank you guys so much, not just for tuning in, but subscribing, liking, commenting, helping make the channel continue to grow, and, take it to places we never imagined that we'd have 50,000 subscribers and be like wondering, will we be able to go full-time this year? What will that look like? What things do we need to do to make that happen? And that's all because of you guys watching, subscribing, liking, joining live streams, all of that fun stuff. So it means the world to us. Thank you so much for all that you do to support the channel, and we will see you next time. I don't know when we'll do the next one of these, but probably a week
maybe
or two.
Sunday.
Yeah, maybe Sunday, maybe some other time. You'll see.